Stand up. I know you guys don't want to stand up. I know you don't want to do it. You don't feel like it. I don't blame you. This team's been horrible. We may have Mike Glennon again at quarterback. I understand where each and every one of you guys are coming from. News came out today. It looks like Glennon more than likely is going to be the starter. Not that I think Jake Fromm's going to make much of a difference, but it's something new. It's something fresh. It's something original. I know it's something that you guys were looking forward to. We'll see who gets the start. We'll go over the injury report and everything else with the New York Giants. We'll talk about the Chargers game. Mike should be here any minute. Running a little bit late, but I had about 80 people waiting, so I didn't want to go any later than I already was, being that I set to start the stream at 3:30. It's already 3:35. He'll be in any minute. No worries there. Mike and me love Mike and have a great conversation. We're actually going to be starting a podcast soon as well. We'll talk about that a bit during the stream as well. It's going to be broad sports, though, not just New York Giants driven. Something I've always wanted to do, something that I always thought would be fun. And yeah, going to answer some of your guys' questions. Just waiting for Mike to come in. We're going to recap last week's game. We're going to talk about the offseason. We're going to talk about the roster development and some of the moves that I could see the New York Giants making in the offseason regarding this year's roster. What's going on there, MVT man? What's going on there, Sports Critic man? What's going on there, Matthew? What's going on there, Conzen? Word in the chat, man. Thank you so much for being here. Giant man in the chat, man. Soul Brother. He says, what's up, Chris, man? What's going on, Soul Brother, man? Thanks for popping in. You guys were, what's going on there, MVT man? From season. You know, the whole Jake Fromm thing, man, have you guys watched the guy play? And I know people have been pulling up film and they've been talking about how he looked pretty good in the preseason. Jake Fromm is not going to save this franchise. Jake Fromm is an immobile quarterback who can't throw the football. He doesn't have an arm. So I don't see Jake Fromm doing much. Have you seen our offensive line? I know it's something new, but you're just throwing him out there to the wolves. He's not going to be successful here, but we'll see if he gets an opportunity. If not this week, I'll probably get an opportunity in a week or so. I don't expect Mike Glennon to go out there and light the world on fire going up against the Chargers on the road, but it's something new. It's something different, but we'll see. LGZ, man, what's going on there? Afghanistan. Big Tank says, what up? Are you calling the Knicks game today? Yeah, I'm going to call the Knicks game tonight. I'm not going to call the game on Sunday because I'm going to be calling the Giants game on Bad Dogs channel. But yes, I will be calling the Knicks game tonight, and hopefully they get a win. The last game was pathetic. Let's see. Yuri, man, thank you very much, man. How did he make it to the league? Is he that bad? I mean, authentic. He's a fifth-round pick out of Georgia, or fourth or fifth-round pick. I think he was a fifth-round pick. He was a guy that was projected to be a first-round pick, actually, going into his senior year or junior year or whatever it was while he was at Georgia's last year in college. And the guy has been underwhelming. He doesn't have the tools. He had a horrible combine, and he dropped for a reason. I don't expect him to be a very good quarterback, and he's immobile. I don't think he's going to do much. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he goes out there and he's the future. You know, to me, he's, Mac Jones is better, but he's that type of quarterback. I don't think Mac Jones would succeed here. And I think it'll be the same thing for Jake Fromm. The guy can't move. Yuri, man, thank you very much, man. I don't care if Linderbaum is a reach at 5. I'm drafting him no matter what, trading down, take the best offensive lineman available. I mean, I'll talk about the offensive line throughout the stream with you guys, some of the prospects. Icky's a guy, I think that's how you pronounce the nickname, out of NC State that I really like. He's capable of playing both the tackle and the guard. Of course, we all know Evan Neal. I would probably think I would not take Linderbaum top 5, just based off how infrequently you draft a center with a top 5, top 6 pick in the draft. And I think there's going to be a tackle available that you could take at that pick and then hope to get Linderbaum a little bit later. Maybe if you trade down, maybe if you're picking 9 or 10. I would love Linderbaum if the New York Giants take both a tackle and a center in this year's draft and shore up the future of that offensive line. I'm all aboard. That's what I'm thinking about. I know people got their mind on the quarterback, rightfully so. Daniel Jones, we hear the news that comes out about the structural damage to his neck. He's now going to miss, if he missed the rest of this season, 10 games in his first 3 years in the NFL. So I understand where fans are coming from with the quarterback. I don't think we're ready to support a quarterback. I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft that could overcome the circumstances that are going to be provided to him. And then you could say, well, you don't know when you're going to be picking early again, and that's fair. But my answer to you is I would rather fix the things around the quarterback in this draft, being that there's not a slam dunk quarterback draft prospect. And if you wait another year to start taking these early linemen and shoring up this offensive line, it's going to take them another year to develop. It's not going to get fixed. To me, this is your opportunity to really fix that line with these 2 picks this year. I'm not saying you got to take 2 linemen. You could definitely take an edge rusher depending on where we're going to be picking. You could take a linebacker. There's a lot of good linebackers in this draft, Nakobe Dean being one of them if you trade down. But that's where my focus is going to be this entire offseason. It's going to be on the offensive line, and I'm looking forward to it, man. Kenny Pickett looks good, authentic. I like Kenny Pickett. Matter of fact, Kenny Pickett is probably my favorite quarterback in this draft. I would still have Justin Fields above him from last year's draft. We passed on Fields. I don't want to take Kenny Pickett. That's just my personal take on it. I don't want to take a quarterback. Just take a quarterback. We need big fat guys with 2 first-round picks. Carlos says, oh, trust me, we'll be picking early again. Carlos, we say that every year. We say, maybe we won't be picking early, and then we pick early. We pick 4th, we pick 6th, we pick 2nd. We picked 11th this past year, and this year it looks like we're going to have 2 inside the top 10. We'll see where we'll be picking the next year. Luckily for us, if you want to think positively about next year, and we don't even know what the roster is going to look like. We'll talk about that with Mike when he comes on. But luckily for us, man, we're going to probably more than likely have a last place schedule based off the fact that Washington is obviously now 6-6. The Eagles are playing better and the Dallas Cowboys. So we're more than likely have a last place schedule. We'll see how we stack up. I don't even know what divisions we're going to be playing next year. I don't know what the cycle is, but we will be playing the last place team in one AFC division, the last place team in the other 2 NFC divisions that we will not be playing if we finish with a last place schedule. So that a little bit lighter of a schedule next year, I suppose. This year we played a second place schedule. And we'll see if we can make some impact with the players that we bring in. Don't expect a whole lot in free agency, though. I'll tell you that right now. Right now, the New York Giants, and there's Mike. I'm going to pop in a second. Right now, the New York Giants, cap space, they don't have a whole hell of a lot. But Mike and myself, we're going to talk about some of the moves that I think the New York Giants can make this offseason in terms of maybe freeing up some cap space. But Mike, what's going on, man?
Hello. I'm sorry for being late. I was
No.
making,
I just had like 80 people waiting. I'm like, I'll just go live, and whatever. No worries.
Yeah, I'm not that important. Don't make all them wait. But yeah, I was making the preview video for Sunday, and I just lost track of time. But anyway, yeah, I'm doing all right. Been chilling today, so it's actually kind of nice. I was shooting some hoops outside, so it's all good around here.
Good to hear that, man. Good to hear that, man. And you were doing the preview video against the Chargers. And before we talk about the Chargers game, I guess like we've done the last couple of weeks when we've done these, is let's briefly recap the previous week.
Right.
New York Giants, I mean, it was abysmal. We didn't score a touchdown. There's not much to talk about. Defensively, I thought we were good defensively outside of that last drive before the half where we played way too much zone and we let them go, down the field at will. I thought Graham came out with a much better game plan in the second half. But overall, defense looked good. It was nice to see Roche get a sack. Yep. Aaron Robinson actually looked really good. He's a guy that I'm going to have my eye on here over the last 5 games or so to see if he could progress as a slot corner for the New York Giants in the future. And the draft class, Mike, looks pretty good. I mean, Tony's got to stay on the field, but the draft class overall looks pretty good. Last year's draft class, at least the first 2 picks, looked very good. McKinney's looked really good here this year. I think he's going to make the Pro Bowl. But Mike Glennon is what he is. I think you got a taste of Mike Glennon, and I don't think New York Giants fans like the taste for him.
Well, yeah, it's like hard to get excited for this week because of Mike Glennon. It's like what can really happen with Mike Glennon at this point? Like, we know who he is. That's kind of like I was hoping for Jake Fromm. I don't expect much from the guy, but like, we don't know who he is and we know who Glennon is. But yeah, for last week, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't a good Joe Judge game, in my opinion. And we saw some stuff that just wasn't that great. But some of the young guys continue to play well, as you mentioned. That's pretty much what we have to look forward to at this point. It's not much about wins and losses right now, unfortunately. I mean, if they win out, sure, maybe something great happens there. But we're pretty much watching the Quincy Roches of the world and the Aaron Robinsons and the Azeez Ojulari type guys. Can Andrew Thomas continue to stay healthy and play well and those type of things? So we were hoping we could evaluate Daniel Jones, but of course, as Giants fans, we never have nice things, so we can't even see that. So at this point, it wouldn't even shock me if he's out for the year. I just don't know what to expect right now, and they're kind of being like, they're not telling us too much about it, but we saw the report about it's kind of worse than we thought it was. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm not like feeling too excited for Sunday, but there is a reason to still watch. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, I always watch. I always
Right.
watch. And there's definitely individual players to get an eye on. I guess you evaluate how Freddie Kitchens does. It's possible he could be back as the offensive coordinator next year if Joe Judge retains his job. And I definitely want to talk about that throughout the stream, where your head is at with that.
Right.
So, yeah, there's definitely things to look at. Kitchens obviously hasn't been doing that good of a job the first 2 weeks, but let's be fair. I mean, he had Mike Glennon to work with. In the first game, he had Daniel Jones with 5 days to prepare, being that they played on Monday night the week before. So I'm going to give him a little bit more time, and hopefully we get to see Daniel Jones. I'm leaning that more than likely the Giants are going to be cautious there, especially with some of the news that's come out. I probably don't expect to see Jones for the rest of the year, and then that's going to bring up the question all offseason, Mike. You know it's going to, rightfully so, because now you got a quarterback, if he doesn't play the rest of this year, who's missed 10 games in 3 years since he's been in the NFL. You know he's only got 1 more year left on that contract, and they're going to have to come to the decision before the 4th year starts whether or not they're going to extend him for $21 or $22 million on the 5th year deal. You're going to have a new GM, possibly a new coach with no ties to the quarterback. So it's definitely going to be a question all offseason of what the New York Giants are doing. next year at the quarterback position and what they're thinking long term. And that'll be a big topic of conversation, I'm sure, throughout the weeks. But let me read this real quick for Bill, man. Bill, man, thank you very much. He says, Mike, and if you guys haven't, go over there, check out MiketooNice. Mike's the man. Always like work with Mike. Don't always agree on everything, but I always think he presents his side very well. And he did a great job. I watched the video as well with Dave Gettleman. I thought you did a great job breaking down, and I think you were fair for the most part. I think you graded him fairly. Like you've said several times when we've done the show in the past, you thought Dave did a good job in 2020. Even though obviously Judge came on, but you were pretty fair in your evaluation of Gettleman. I thought it was a good video. And Bill says, Mike, great job on the Gettleman review. Killed it. Everyone should check it out. Yeah, he did a really good job, man. I enjoyed the video. Did a really good job.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that very much. It was one of those things where I made the graphics about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, and I've been trying to hold off on the video because I kind of just wanted to make sure the Giants don't make some type of great run, and I put out this pessimistic video, but I kind of just reached my breaking point with Gettleman, and as you can tell from the video, I didn't have too much passion involved. I try not to get too worked up about it because I'm kind of just over the whole Gettleman thing. We know he's gone at this point, but it's just, I had to go back and like kind of realize like how did we get here type of thing. Like how did this guy screw up, go from like the Jerry Reese situation that wasn't good and make it even worse? Like how did we get to this spot? So I wanted to make the whole video, and so far it's gotten some really good comments. There's always a couple, what's in there, but for the most part.
and I don't disagree that he failed miserably. He did not improve the situation. But do you think it's worse than the situation he inherited? I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that you're wrong in your opinion, but I want to give you another perspective. Gettleman inherited a 37-year-old quarterback, which I think was forced on him by Mara. The new guy who comes in, whoever it's going to be, is not going to have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And he's going to have 2 picks inside the top 10. I know that Gettleman had a 2nd overall pick, and he had some longer contracts. I know that you highlighted in the video that he had a little bit more cap freedom than people let on, but he did have longer contracts, guys that had committed to 5-year deals. So I'm trying to think, if we get the right guy in here, maybe it's not as bad as we think.
Yeah, no, you can make the argument, definitely, especially with the 2 first-round picks and having 5 picks in the top 100. That's going to help out a lot. But looking at some of the contracts, I was doing that before because we're going to talk about some guys they may cut next year later. But I was looking at some of the contracts. And you look at like the James Bradbury contract, and look at like Leonard Williams, of course, who's not worth $26 million on the cap hit next year. I mean, he's a good player, but just not that much.
I got it right here. Let's pull it up real quick.
Galladay, even like there's a lot of contracts on this team that's like, they went all in, of course, last offseason. Now it's kind of coming back to bite us, but yeah, I mean, look, neither situation was good. I just think people overblew how bad the Reese one was. Oh, here we go. All right.
Yeah, here's the salary cap here, because I know we were going to be talking about next year's roster. And obviously, Mike, this isn't going to include guys like Will Hernandez, who probably more than likely won't be back. It's not going to include Jabril Peppers, who more than likely won't be back. And it's not going to include Evan Ingram, who more than likely won't be back. But right now, if you go all the way to the bottom, Mike, and they actually updated this because it used to be that Nate Solder was like a $14 million hit and $4 million in savings. Now they changed it, and I think that has to do with why they have more cap space than before. If you go to the bottom right now, at least according to Spot Track, the Giants have $4.5 million in cap space, and some of the things that they could do, let's talk about it. I mean, you look at the top, you're not touching Leo. It's a $35 million dead cap. It can't do anything there. I'll skip over Bradbury. I think that's something interesting to talk about. You're not touching Kenny Galladay. You're not touching Adoree Jackson. Martinez is another guy we could talk about. Shepard's another guy we could potentially talk about. You can't cut Ryan. Dead cap, it's too high. Can't cut Andrew Thomas. You're not cutting Daniel Jones. Dead cap, it equals the salary. Kyle Rudolph's a guy you're probably going to cut. Barkley, you're not going to be able to cut. And Gano, you're not going to be able to cut. Riley Dixon. So to me, when I look at this, like, I'll go over the obvious guys. Outside of like the really small contracts, Riley Dixon's going to save you about $3.2 million. I think you're absolutely going to cut him. That's obvious to me.
Yep.
And then as you scroll up, Rudolph's going to save you another $5 million. So now you're talking about $8 million in savings up to $4.5 million. You're up to $12.5 million. And then it gets interesting with some of the other guys, like I said, in terms of the big salary players like Blake Martinez, like James Bradbury. Bradbury would save you almost $12 million, and Martinez would save you $9 million. And you're going to need some cap flexibility to sign players in the draft, that you draft, potentially extend some players that you like on this roster. If you're long-term thinking, like Andrew Thomas, perhaps you want to sign him before the market goes way up. So those are some decisions that the New York Giants will have this year in the offseason. And the new GM who comes in will obviously get to make those decisions. And he has no ties to any of these players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when Blake Martinez tore his ACL, I feel like he may have played his last game as a Giant because we don't know what he's going to come back as. And it's not like Blake Martinez was a top 5 linebacker in the NFL in the first place. The Giants do need him. I'm not going to lie, but like just saving that much money, what's it, $9 million or so, like saving that would help a lot, especially for a team like this. And Bradbury kind of reminds me of Kevin Zeitler from last year. Like it was a similar ish like type savings of like $12 million, I think. And we know that Bradbury is supposed to be one of the best defenders on this team, but he's going to be 28, 29 next year. Cornerbacks kind of start to go south at that point. Is it really worth bringing that back? But it's also like you can play both sides with Bradbury. It's not like it's definitive. I feel like you can make an argument as to why you should keep him and why you should not keep him. So I can hear out both sides, but I don't think it's a guarantee that either Martinez or Bradbury are back next year, especially once again, as you said, the new GM will have no ties to either guy because they were signed by Gettleman and Judge. So,
yeah, if it was me, Mike, and I think of, we always do this as content creators. We think, well, how we would think if we were put in a situation, not that we'll ever be GMs, but if it was me, unless Martinez is willing to sign an extension that is much more cost effective coming off that injury. And I know it sucks. It's part of the NFL. Injuries are a part of the sport. I'll be rooting my ass off for Blake Martinez if he goes somewhere else and he doesn't stay with the Giants. He was fantastic for us his first year with the football team, and I hope they find a way to make it work out. And they could. They could extend him maybe on a 3-year deal that's much more cost effective, maybe $8 or $9 million per year on average. But if they can't do something like that, Mike, I think you got to cut your bait, man. $9 million is a lot. Yeah. And we're going to need as much as we could possibly get. You could draft Blake Martinez's replacement in the second round. You could do things to try to replace that. I don't think having a guy coming off the injury that Blake Martinez has and paying him $14.5–15 million is the wisest decision with the limited budget that we have.
No, I'm with you for sure. I actually wanted to ask you about this one. This one's kind of interesting. So I don't know, like if there's like an injury designation or something. I don't know if the NFL even does that. But for Nick Gates, he has a $3 million cap hit next year and 500,000 dead cap. So would you cut Nick Gates and save $2.5 million? Do you think that's worth it or no? Because I really was stumped on this one before, so I want to get your opinion.
Yeah, I think Gates, and I think let's go back to it real quick so I can see. I think Gates, and let me just pop this off. I was thinking because it's going to get to in a second, but I just want to look at the salaries. I think the two most interesting to me are Shepard and Gates. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing you'll remember about Shepard is before the year started, the New York Giants actually backloaded Shepard's contract a little bit, which made me think he's probably going to be back with the team because now it's a little bit more of a dead cap hit. But again, the new GM who comes in is not Gettleman, so he didn't sign Shepard. If he could save $4.5 million, he may very well do it. Shepard can't stay on the field. The guy's constantly hurt. You just drafted a first-round wide receiver who's constantly hurt. You just signed a wide receiver for $18 million a year who's constantly hurt. But regardless, if you could save $4.6 million on Shepard, the new GM may say to himself, well, I could draft a future Shepard. I could take a receiver in the 3rd or 4th round, and I don't got to pay him near that, and that money could go towards something. So I think he's another interesting name as well. I know he's a fan favorite, and I'm not necessarily rooting for that, but he goes $12.5 million against the cap. And then, like you said, the other name is interesting is Nick Gates, and I know he's a fan favorite. Devontae Booker's another name, by the way. I think you probably cut him. It saves you $2 million. Yep. It's a $1 million dead cap hit. He's replaceable in the draft. But Gates saves you 2.5 or you pay him 3. Now, what I could see happening, Mike, in this situation with Gates, and there's no way I can know this. I don't know what the new GM is going to think. I could see the Giants cutting Gates and bringing him back on a cheaper salary. I think that's possible if he doesn't get interest from around the league coming off the injury. But we got to be fair as a fan base. And I know that Nick Gates, like I said, is a fan favorite. He's a captain of the team. He's my favorite, outside of Andrew Thomas, the guy who's he's my favorite guy on the offensive line. He's tough as hell. So I'm a big fan of Gates. And I like his story. Undrafted free agent. I think was actually one of Gettleman's best moves based on value, bringing him in, bringing Graham Gano. Those are two of his better moves. But at the end of the day, the guy's had, 7 surgeries on his leg? I mean, that's some cap savings there, Mike. Yep. I wouldn't be surprised if the New York Giants try to figure something out with Nick Gates, but don't bring him back on that $3 million number.
Yeah, I'm just glad I don't have to make these decisions. These are tough, honestly. For our next GM, it's like, just looking at the Sterling Shepard one, it's like, yes, you can save what?
4.5.
4.5, but is it also worth having like $8 million of dead cap that you can't touch just to get this guy off the team? There's a lot of like that, just tough decisions here. But two we didn't mention I wanted to talk about. O'Shane Zimmerman, as you can save $1 million, done, get him out. Darius Slayton, that's an interesting one. Only $58,000 dead cap hit, and it's like a little over $1 million cap hit. Slayton, I would try to trade. I will say that, but
I think I'd keep Slayton for $1 million.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're not going to get anybody much cheaper than that. I know people hate Darius Slayton. They want him out in the first bus out of here. I don't mind keeping Slayton for that price.
All right. Okay.
That's just my take. But if they trade him, they trade. I'm not going to cry if they trade him. The guy's had a ton of drops, so on and so forth. He's a 5th-round pick, but I think I'd let him stick around for another year, unless maybe you got more than I think that you could get in a trade.
I would test the market. I will say that I would test the market and see what you can get for him. And if not, then you keep him. It's whatever. Not much.
Yeah,
not much money.
I'd at least listen. Let's put it that way. Stinky fingers, man. Thank you very much, man. These injuries are hella fishy. I never see injuries, but somehow I always hear Judge telling me about them after the game. DJ's out for the season. Well, it's not. It hasn't been announced he's out for the season. We're speculating. We're assuming he's out. More than likely going to be out for the season. Doesn't mean he will be. But I'll read the rest of this. From an injury I get from sleeping on too many pillows. Sticky fingers. I understand where you're coming from, and what I will say, not just with Judge, but this organization, it's hard to trust some of the things that they say. I have no choice. I'm not a doctor. I don't work from within that organization. I'm going to take the Giants at their word regarding the injury, and I would think he's clearly a better option than Mike Glennon. Joe Judge knows he's coaching for his job, unless he's trying to prove to the owner that they need to move on from Jones next year. But I don't think you're going to be able to do that with Mike Glennon. So for me, I'm going to take them at their word. I know a report came out yesterday, and I'll be the first to say I jumped on it because I trust the writer from the New York Post when he said it. He said that the injury actually took place against the Tampa Bay Bucks. He then later went back and retracted that statement and changed it to the Eagles game. I'm going to think it was just a mistake on his part when he was typing the article. And I think that's fair in assuming that. But I think it's a legitimate injury, Mike. I think it's an injury that he probably could play through. You see him in practice. You see him moving his head around. He's in full pads. But I also think it's an injury, Mike, that they have their concerns, rightfully so, due to the fact that it's in the neck area, something that you certainly worry about as a football player, that it could be a career ender if he gets hit in the wrong way. So I think the Giants are just playing it cautious and waiting until they get official word from the doctors that, he's good to go.
Yeah. No, as Giants fans, we know as better as anybody. I still have, flashbacks of David Wilson on all fours in the end zone when he got tackled by the Eagles. And, we know how that career went, so we've seen it with our 1st-round pick before in 2012. So, you got to be careful with these things. You could think about, DJ all you want, but it is more about player safety in this situation. You don't want to mess around with the neck injuries. I don't know how bad it is personally, but I always try to think outside the box. I'm a conspiracy guy. I'm like, are they making up this injury to bench this guy? But no, they're not doing that, I don't think. I guess that kind of went through my mind, but I do think this is an actual thing, and they're actually trying to be safe about this kid and not put him in harm's way. The Giants know that hopefully he has a long career ahead of him, and you're 4-8. Like, what are we doing? Don't throw him out there just because, you need an answer. Like, put the guy's health first and evaluate that stuff in the offseason.
Yeah, I really do think that I'm not saying I think they're being cautious, but I think they're being told by the doctors to be cautious. That's why Jones went and got a second opinion, because Jones probably says to himself, I feel fine. I'm going to fly to California. I'm going to see what this doctor says. And the doctor probably came back with the same news. That's my, I don't think there's much of a conspiracy into this. Are there things that Joe Judge has said, Mike, where I'm like, yeah, he's full of shit?
Yep.
Yes.
All the time.
I honestly, in my heart, don't think this is one of them.
Right. I agree.
Bill, man, thank you very much, man. The new GM will gut the roster as soon as the contracts allow, especially on offense. What does he have to lose? This roster is a disaster, and we are in rebuild mode yet again. I don't know, Bill. I honestly don't know what the new GM is going to do. I honestly don't know if he's going to go full rebuild mode or he's going to try to work with some of the pieces that the New York Giants have. But the problem to what you said is a lot of the guys on this roster, they're eating up a lot of the money. You can't go full rebuild mode. You can't cut Leonard Williams. You can't cut Kenny Golladay. You can't cut Adoree Jackson. They're taking up like 30-40% of the cap by themselves. So that's the major issue. But do I think he's going to retain guys like Evan Ingram, guys like Jabril Peppers, guys he has no ties to? Will he cut a guy like Sterling Shepard? I think it's entirely possible. Same thing with Blake Martinez, potentially James Bradbury as well. Maybe he'll look at the trade market to see if he can get anything for them before he elects to do something like that. But yeah, Bill, I think it's entirely possible. I don't think we'll see a complete rebuild, Bill, but much like in 2019, Mike, if you remember, the Giants didn't just like completely empty out the roster right away.
Yeah.
Yes, they traded Beckham, but they waited till midseason to start to trade away some of the other players. They cut Jenkins, of course, because of what he said on Twitter, but they also traded Snacks Harrison. They got rid of
Apple. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got rid of some of the guys that they didn't want, but they didn't do it right away. So they may wait A guy like Saquon Barkley, for example, if this guy comes in and doesn't think he's going to be part of the long-term plans, I think. Let me ask you that, Mike, because I get asked this question all the time about Barkley. And everybody wants to trade him, and I understand it.
Yep.
Can you trade him now and get next to nothing? Like next to nothing. Or do you play him next year, try to fix the offensive line in the offseason, hope he has a really good year, and in season, maybe you get a little bit more from him? I would roll the dice and hope he could play really well, and then I would come to my decision whether or not I want to stick with this guy, which more than likely I wouldn't, especially if I was a new GM. I didn't draft this guy second overall. I have a lot bigger needs on this team than a running back. Then I would look to trade him. I don't think I would trade him before the year started next year.
No, it's an interesting thought because, I don't know what you're getting for Barkley right now. Like, honestly, you might get like a 5th round pick at most. It's a bad offer. So what I'm hoping is that the Giants and the new GM actually address the offensive line this offseason, as we mentioned plenty of times. So let's say you get a good offensive line next year. Then you bring in Saquon, and let's say Saquon balls out the first 5 games next year. And the Giants, most likely are going to be in another down year next year. The Giants might be 2-3, 2-4 at that point. And then you can trade Barkley while he's averaging 4.5 yards a carry or something. So you can make that argument. But I'll tell you what, if they trade Barkley right now for anything, I'm not going to be too pissed about it. It kind of just at that point where you just kind of want to cut.
I won't be pissed either. I think we've come to the realization, Mike, that and I'd be happy for Barkley in a way because I think it gives Barkley a better opportunity to succeed.
Yep.
It ain't gonna work here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's just not gonna work here. And I don't think it's in the best interest of the New York Giants to push forward with him because and maybe I'd feel differently if we had a good offensive line and we had a good offense. But I just don't see it. And the guy's been banged up. So I'm with you. If they trade him, I'm going to completely understand it.
Yeah, I'm not going to I'm going to be disappointed because you want your draft picks to work out, but it's also don't force it. If they extended him for 5 years and $50 million, that would piss me off a lot more than if they traded him. I'll put it that way. So that's how I stand on that.
Yeah. And Anthony, man, thank you very much, man. I would like Carl Banks as the GM. You heard him. Carl Banks is pissed.
Yeah, finally.
Carl Banks is pissed, and rightfully so. I mean, the team's been. How could you say anything positive about this team right now, Mike? Let's be real. I mean, and we're going to talk about Judge, I'm sure, and everything else. But what is there on this team right now, long term, to be excited about?
Maybe a few guys. Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney. And you hope that Joe Judge matures as a coach if they keep him. But it's a mess. It's been a mess here really since our last Super Bowl. 2016 we made the playoffs, but it's been a mess since our last Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Sticky fingers, man. Thank you very much, man. I can't find Kenny Galladay's injury on tape. I can't find Kadarius Toney's on tape. Can't find DJ's. Well, here's what I'll say about Toney and Galladay. I mean, wide receivers, a lot of time it's non-contact injuries, right? Especially if it's like hamstrings, things like that, running routes. So that's my take on the wide receivers injuries.
Wasn't Galladay though? Galladay went over the middle and made a tough catch, and the safety kind of popped him right in the rib area. I kind of remember that. He didn't go down, but
he's been hurt a couple of times.
It was a big hit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he had a hamstring injury before the year even started. Remember in training camp, right? So I mean, couldn't find it. Dory's. They just tell me later it's weird. I don't have a conspiracy to explain it, but it just doesn't add up. I mean, I guess I get what you're saying, Sticky Fingers, but what I'll say to that is, what is the benefit to say that those guys are hurt? How does that benefit anybody on this team to say that those guys got hurt? I mean, Galladay got hurt early in the year. I just don't see the benefit. I mean, it costs people jobs, those guys getting hurt, right? Dave Gettleman, that makes him look worse. He spent $72 million on a wide receiver. He drafted Daniel Jones. Joe Judge playing for his job, signed off on a lot of these free agent acquisitions. It doesn't look good when you spent the money that you did on Galladay for him to get hurt. So I just don't see the benefit, how anybody benefits from that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean, there's been times we've seen Toney limp off the field and things too. It's not like it comes out of nowhere, but the way the Giants have managed injuries for years now it's definitely not one of the better teams in the league when it comes to that. They've handled injuries in a very odd way for a long time. And especially with Joe Judge here, he's very discreet. He's kind of, takes that from Belichick, doesn't want to give out any extra information about this guy's going to be available, this guy's not. Always tries to kind of play his cards close to his chest, if you will. So that's kind of how it's been here since Judge has been the head coach.
That's the way he's always been. And you knew you were going to get that coming from Belichick, coming from the Patriots. And we all knew that Daniel Jones more than likely wasn't going to play after that injury, but he even made it sound like there was a good chance he was going to play the week, as soon as they said there's a chance he could be out for the year. He was basically saying He's playing with the first team, and I get it. It's gamesmanship. You don't want to give anything away to your next week's opponent, but that's the way he's been since he's been here. Stanley says Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral are the top 2 quarterbacks. I mean, that's something I'll come to a conclusion in terms. Even though I don't want to take a quarterback, Stanley, you know that, and maybe my opinion will change. I don't think it will. But I'm going to do a lot more research on these guys as the offseason gets going. I've watched the 3 main guys. I've watched some Corral. I've definitely watched some Pickett, and obviously I've watched Malik Willis. Malik Willis coming into the when the college year started, most people had him as a top 10 talent in this year's draft, and he's been somewhat underwhelming. Obviously, going to a small school at Liberty, started at Auburn. Actually, didn't get much of an opportunity there. Transferred to Liberty, played there the last 2 years, and he's had some hits and misses this year. But obviously, the physical skill set is there. I see it pops off the page in terms of his athletic ability, his arm strength. As far as Corral goes, Corral's having a great year. He's having a fantastic year, somewhat athletic, has decent arm strength, and I like Pickett too. But to me, none of these guys jump off the page for me. And maybe I'll feel differently as the draft approaches, but none of them I don't want to. And again, you can make that argument. Well, maybe Justin Herbert didn't jump off the page. Listen, Mike, if they draft a quarterback, I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably not what I would do. Yeah. But I'm going to hope that they make the right decision. All I can do as a fan is trust that they evaluate the players properly. Obviously, if you're going to draft one of these quarterbacks, you better be completely sold on them and feel like they have top 5 potential, Mike. And I think we agree on that. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
If you're going to take a quarterback that high in the draft, I don't want you to take a quarterback that has top 10 potential. This guy has to have potential. I'm not saying he has to reach that level, but he has to have upside of being a Josh Allen, a Pat Mahomes level talent. For me, to take a quarterback top 5, top 10, maybe not Mahomes, that's pushing it a bit, but he has to have really, really high upside for me to justify taking a quarterback that early.
Yeah, I'm all about upside when it comes to quarterback picks. That's pretty, and there's a lot that goes into it, obviously. But if I could tell that you would never have a chance to be a top 10 guy, I'm usually not too interested. And it goes back to Daniel Jones for me. That's why I was not a big fan. But yeah, I mean, I haven't watched a lot of these guys. I've seen clips and some highlights. My initial reaction on Corral, I wasn't too impressed, honestly, but I do want to see more. Pickett impresses me. I know he's kind of older, 24. He's been around for a bit, some injuries, but I don't know. I feel like his mind.
One knock on Pickett, Mike, that I hear all the time, and again, it's something that I don't think is something that would deter me from drafting if I really liked him. Mm-hmm. But one thing you hear all the time, people talk about his hands. He's got like 8-inch hands for a guy that's
really?
Like 4. Yeah. So people worry, could that translate to fumbling problems in the NFL?
Yeah. I didn't know that, honestly. That's a good point. Yeah. Malik Wills, I mean, he has a lot of physical traits. Obviously very raw, but I can get behind that. He has I think Malik Willis has the potential to be a top 10 guy if it all pans out. So I can get behind it. As you said, I don't want to take a quarterback right now, knowing what I know, but as time goes on and we get closer to April, maybe I'll fall in love with a guy. I feel that way, but I'm not going to slam my head against the wall if they do take a quarterback. If the Giants do legitimately believe they can take their next franchise guy, and as you said, has top 10 potential, and we as fans can see that, then hey, I can get on board. Is it my preference right now? No, but I got to get behind the new GM until he makes me hate him too. So we'll see.
Anthony, right there very much, man. Joe Judge just pulled the drawstring on my back for a repeated press conference. Oh God, his press conferences are just as bad as the previous 2 head coaches. They're horrible. Yep. I couldn't stand Ben McAdoo's press conferences, but it's the same thing. I think, Mike, before these press conferences start, the New York Giants have to outlaw the word tape.
Yeah.
If I hear the word tape again, I'm going to flip out. I heard it with McAdoo constantly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm hearing it with Judge constantly. It's every other word. I got to go look at the tape. I got to go look at the tape. But let's talk about Judge real quick, Mike, because I think, to me, that's the biggest question mark right now, in terms of we know what is going to happen with the GM. Well, we don't know what they're going to do, but we know Gettleman's going to be replaced. Because 2-3 weeks ago, I was definitely on board with thinking for sure Judge was going to be back. I have made a video this past week. I would fire Judge right now. That's my honest opinion on it. I would fire Judge because when I really and I don't think the Giants are gonna, but when I really step back and think about it, and it's not even so much that I don't think Joe Judge can improve as a coach. He's definitely got his deficiencies. He's definitely done a poor job this year. It's because it prevents me from bringing in the best potential general manager candidate. And I don't want to have to force a GM to fit with my head coach. Joe Judge has not done anything to warrant me having to do that. Do I want to fire a head coach after 2 years? No, I hate it. But this goes back to the mistake they made when they kept Gettleman in the first place after they fired Shermer. When they brought Judge on, it gave Gettleman a little bit longer of a leash, and it doesn't give the head coach any security blanket. So if I was the owner, I'd move on, but I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna stick with Judge. And like Rappaport said a couple weeks ago, I think they're gonna try to find somebody to fit with him.
Yeah, that's why I tweeted out a month ago. There were so many Giants fans saying like Joe Judge and Daniel Jones are for sure here next year. And I'm like, let's pump the brakes on that. There's a lot of season left and we don't know anything. Like, we don't like if there's a new quarterback here next year, am I going to be shocked? No. New head coach, am I going to be shocked? No. Like, we have to see how these things play out. I feel like a lot of people were jumping to conclusions there. But for Judge, I mean, it's you pretty much put it out there. I hate firing another coach after 2 years. I don't want it. Me and you sat here the season he was hired saying he needs to be here for at least 5 years. Me and you both agreed with that. But I've seen a lot of things where it's like, is this guy actually a good coach? Because I don't know right now. He's done so many things this year that are just going in the wrong direction.
Thing, Mike, if he stays on, there's no change. You're bringing a guy either from this organization or a guy that's worked with Judge before. You're not bringing in the best candidate to fix this team. That's what worries me. That's what worries me the most.
That's what I want as a fan. I want the wholesale changes. I'm kind of ready to hit the reset button. I don't think this core is going to get much better. I don't think it's going to pan out. So if Joe Judge happens to be a part of that core, then so be it. And as you said, when it comes to the GM search, I want to hire the best possible candidate, not the best possible candidate who wants to work with Joe Judge. It's different. Like, if we bring in some former Patriots executive, maybe he is great. I don't know, but it's also limiting who you can get. And if I was like one of the top GM candidates, I don't want this Joe Judge guy being my head coach. This guy stinks, in my opinion. If you're looking at it from an outside view, terrible at timeouts. His team's not disciplined, and there's so many issues with Judge right now. He sounds like a clown in the press conferences. Is that a guy I want as my head coach and putting my ass on the line? I don't think so. So, if I was a great GM candidate, I don't think I want this guy, and it's going to hurt the Giants when it comes to that. And this goes back to 2019. Gettleman and Shermer should have went out together, and that should have been it. And now we're here 2 years later, and it was very predictable. That's the part I hate about it. It was so predictable, and now Gettleman's going to be gone.
I would have kept both. If you would have asked me in 2019, I would have kept both for one more year.
Me too.
And if it didn't work, I would have blown it up. But once they fired Shermer, I would have fired Gettleman as well.
Right.
And I'll tell you another thing, Mike. I think if they would have changed GMs then and there, and this team was still operating the way they are this year, I'd be on board with giving Judge another year because I want him to stay with the GM. Yeah. But because they're on the same timeline, I don't want to prevent that from bringing in the best GM possible. And that's what I worry about. And we'll see what they do in the offseason. Obviously, I'm not going to flip out if Judge is back. I do think Judge hopefully has some potential to grow as a head coach, but I don't want it preventing the GM. Obviously, I'm going to give them an opportunity, whoever comes in, whatever the plan may be. But Giants can't keep doing the same thing, man. And we'll see what happens in the offseason. Yeah. Alvaro, he says, Chris, I remember you were hyped about Kenny Golladay still. I mean, I think most Giant fans were hyped about Kenny Golladay.
Oh, yeah.
You were hyped, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we needed a receiver, right? I mean, here's the thing I'll say, Mike. It was kind of like the Nate Solder signing. Not that I thought it was going to have the same result, but it was kind of like the Nate Solder signing. When the Giants signed Nate Solder, you were relieved. You were like, okay, they needed a left tackle. They went out there, they overspent. You knew the second we paid Golladay, you overspent. When you pay for a high-end player at his position, you're going to overpay, much like we did with Nate Solder, much like we did with Kenny Golladay. But it was a need. Golladay was coming off a year in which the year before, where he led the league in touchdown passes. He was a guy that I thought fit this offense very well. So I don't take that back. I was still excited when they did it. To me, the bigger mistake they made was after the fact they signed Golladay. Obviously, if I go back in time, I don't want you to sign Golladay now, but you had to address the offensive line after you did that. But I'm not going to take that back. I was excited when they did it. I'm not excited now if I could play Monday morning GM. It has not worked out. But did I understand that signing? Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, if anyone cares, Keenan Allen's out for the Chargers. Definitely big for us.
Is that official?
Yeah.
Is that official?
Yep. From my sports.
It's COVID with him, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So speaking of wide receivers, Kenny Golladay, yeah, I was excited because it was kind of like the Nate Solder thing in a way. I'll explain why in a second. When Nate Solder was signed in 2018, the Giants needed a left tackle. They had to address it. Kenny Golladay, same thing. The Giants had to address wide receiver one. They couldn't go another season without a wide receiver one. And obviously when they traded Beckham, they had to replace that. And Golden Tate wasn't that guy. Like, no shit, right? We get that. And they had to find a way to get that wide receiver one. And looking at who was out there, Kenny Golladay was the guy. Now, Was I excited as hell when he signed here? Yeah, because I've watched Kenny Golladay for a long time and know how great he can be and the difficult catches he makes and the 50-50 catches he makes and all that. He's a really good player. But I also realized this signing could go negatively if he continues to be injured. And that's what he's been so far. And if Daniel Jones has not progressed, which he really hasn't. So unfortunately, we're seeing the downside of the signing. Obviously, it had its risk. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. When he was signed, I was very excited because that was the best move to help Daniel Jones turn into a franchise quarterback. And it just didn't work out. It is what it is.
And at that time, Mike, we still had a whole draft to go, and we assumed that they were going to fix the line. When they signed Golladay, I'm like, okay, they'll fix the line in the draft, and they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. So that was my biggest issue with the offseason. But I'm with you, man. He was the best wide receiver available. We needed a wide receiver. You overpaid. That's what you do in free agency.
And the other guys were franchised, right? Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin. So it's like you were kind of left with Golladay at that point. So you had to do it.
And I thought it gave us a lot more freedom in the draft to go wherever. I think had they not signed Golladay, you would have been forced into taking a wide receiver. Of course, we took one anyway. Mm-hmm. Alex, man, thank you very much, man. I can't wait for us to make the same mistake and draft a quarterback in a QB list draft.
Oh, yeah.
Alex, I mean, again, people say that, I get this argument from people all the time that want to take a quarterback, and I understand it. They say, well, people said that about this draft, and the quarterback worked out. And that's true. And what I'll say, Alex, is even though I may not be excited to take a quarterback in this year's draft, I personally think, and just how I feel now, and I could easily be proven wrong, and maybe my opinion will change leading up into the draft, this is very reminiscent of 2019, when it was thought to be a very weak draft class, and the Giants needed to take a quarterback, and they took one anyway. Do I think it's in the best interest of the New York Giants to pick outside of the draft strengths just because they may need a quarterback? Personally, no. I think that's the stupidest thing you could ever do is reach on a quarterback just to take a quarterback. You have options. You could take a stopgap. You could roll with Jones for another year and hope that he improves as a quarterback. So I'm with you. I would not force a quarterback pick in this year's draft. I understand why fans want to, but I'm not forcing it. However, if they do, it could work out. I won't rule it out. Just like Daniel Jones could have worked out. I guess he still could work out, but definitely could have worked out when we made the pick. You hope to be wrong. You hope that, in terms of the interpretation of the draft class at the position, that people are wrong. And if he's put in the right situation. But Mike, what I worry about more so than anything else is we don't have this situation around the quarterback for this guy to come in and succeed. So if it was me and I was the GM, Mike, I'm looking at it like this, Mike. If I draft the quarterback with that first pick, say I take a lineman in the second, I still am going to need at least another lineman. Like, this line is atrocious. And the way that this team's been able to evaluate offensive line in the past, now you're going to be drafting a lineman in next year's draft early. And it usually takes at least a year for these guys to develop. So now you're talking year 3 by the time you have a competent offensive line for this quarterback that you drafted in the first round. That's the way I look at it. And that's with me having very little faith in this team's ability to address the offensive line and fix it. I've seen it for 12 years. They haven't been able to do it. So for me, before I invest another high-end pick on a quarterback, unless I'm blown away by him, I want to make sure I have that tied up.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I think there's a quarterback that's a superstar, I'm taking him regardless. But I don't see that. I don't see that in this class. Yeah, I don't see that in this class. And at least 2019 had Kyler Murray, who I liked a lot, but we don't have that either. This is a class where you're kind of just shooting your shot, and I don't think anyone really knows who's going to be great and who's not. Some GMs may think Malik Willis is going to be a top 5 quarterback one day. Some people may think Kenny Pickett's going to be a great quarterback one day, but nobody really knows for sure. Like, just based on consensus, a lot of people just are kind of up in the air about this class. So I wouldn't force it. You mentioned it. Forcing a quarterback pick is terrible. And the Giants are in a prime position where they can fix this offensive line if they pick the right guys. And this is a pretty good offensive line class from what I've heard. So they can help, they can fix that this offseason. And then hopefully next year, which should be a better quarterback class, get that guy or trade for a veteran if they need to. So obviously the Russell Wilson thing, that's going to come up. Yep.
We're going to talk about that too.
I saw your video about it. Yeah.
I'm sure people are going to want to talk about that. And I think it's interesting. And I was actually surprised, Mike, to be completely honest with you. I thought there'd be more people that would at least be receptive to the possibility of Russell Wilson going to the New York Giants. And I'm not saying I would. I don't want to take the shortcut. Now, in a certain circumstance, would I be like, all right, that makes sense? Yeah. And we'll talk about that during the live stream. But it seems like Giants fans are completely off board with that. And I get it. I want to fix this team the right way. I want to think long term, but we'll definitely talk about it. DeGrom, man, thank you very much, man. Jets could be the favorites to get Devontae Adams. Imagine Adams, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Michael Carter, and then Neal and Linderbaum. Top 10 offense. The Jets, Mike, and DeGrom, I know you're a big Jet fan. Don't the Jets always seem to have like cap space? I don't know how they do it. I remember the year they signed Le'Veon Bell. They signed C.J. Mosley. They always seem to have high-profile free agent signings, but they always seem to have.
Well, I have the answer for you. They always have a quarterback on a rookie contract. There's your answer.
True. That's very true.
That's it.
That's very true.
Yeah, I like this team, but is Zach Wilson good? Like, we don't know yet. What if he's not good? Then what are you?
That's the thing. It's easy to say that we, as Giants fans, we said the same thing, Mike. When Eli was older in his career in 2017, Brandon Marshall, Evan Ingram, Odell Beckham. Oh my God, this is gonna be a top 5 off. If your offensive line can't block and your quarterback can't play, it doesn't matter. So it's going to come down to Zach Wilson. It's going to come down to the development of your offensive line. You got 2 good young linemen there that you hope mature and can stay healthy with Becton and Vera Tucker, and maybe you draft another lineman this year. But that's what it comes down to for me, DeGrom. There's no way that you can guarantee that just based off the weapons.
Yeah, I like Wilson more than most people, but he just, hasn't shown much yet. He's had some games this year, but not the big picture has not been great for Zach Wilson. I'll say that. I
like him too. When he was coming out of the draft, I said it, man. In terms of the way that he processed the field, I was very impressed.
Yeah.
For a young quarterback, but obviously he's not in a great situation either. Jova, man, thank you very much, man. Do you see a scenario where we draft wide receiver Jameson Williams? Isn't that the guy? Is he the guy from Alabama? I think he's from Alabama, if I'm not mistaken.
Couldn't tell you, but Google will tell me.
Yeah, I think he is. If the O-line and D-linemen we want are gone with one of our picks. I mean, Jova, I'm going to tell you what right now, Jova. If the Giants draft a wide receiver in the first round, I'm going to flip out.
Yeah.
I will flip out. If you thought my Daniel Jones reaction last year in 2019 was bad, just turn off the headphones. I might get kicked off YouTube. I would flip out if the Giants took a wide receiver in the top 10 picks of this year's draft. Not to mention it's not known as a very rich wide receiver draft class to begin with, and we have much more pressing needs at much more important positions. If the Giants take a wide receiver this year, I will flip out. It would be a horrible, atrocious decision. I don't want them even thinking about taking a wide receiver until at least round 3 this year.
Yep. No, I couldn't. I don't know. I can't even imagine taking another one in the first round, especially with still having Galladay under contract and having a young Tony. It wouldn't make much sense. I'd rather fix the other parts. We know the offensive line is the most important right now. Obviously, quarterback's going to be most important if Daniel Jones doesn't pan out. But those 2 parts, offensive line, quarterback, they come before wide receiver for me. So he does go to Alabama, by the way. So you were right.
Yeah, I remember he wasn't, if I remember correctly, I did a little bit of research on him because I was watching an Alabama game. I was interested. He wasn't that highly thought of as a prospect. And then this year, I think he had a big year for Alabama, and now he's moving up draft boards. But Alabama is like a factory for wide receiver prospects. I don't know how they do it. They always have like the top 2 wide receivers in every draft. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Xerox man, thank you very much. Says, hi, gents. Guessing who's going to the game this Sunday. Very excited. Jake from State Farm is going to kill it. Well, I don't mean to ruin your day, Xerox. I don't mean to ruin your day.
Don't ruin his day. Don't say it. Don't say it.
Xerox, I hope you have a great time at the game. It looks like, I don't know if it's official yet, it looks like Glennon's going to be the starter. You'll at least get to, you'll get to see a giraffe on the field.
I would want to see the stadium. That's what I'm excited for. Seeing the new stadium there, that looks like an awesome place. So that's what I'd be most excited for.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest looking stadium in the league. If not, I definitely want one of it. If not, Dallas looks really cool. The Vegas stadium looks really
cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, have a great time at the game, Xerox, man. I appreciate you popping in. And John, he says, Joe Judge is being irresponsible to start a quarterback coming off a concussion. Fromm should start no matter what. As for the draft, new GM will draft a new quarterback in the second, not the first. All right, let's start with the concussion thing. To me, that's more in the doctors. If the doctors clear Glennon, I'm gonna be fair. If the doctors clear Glennon, they clear Glennon. Mike, what's your take on that?
I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, but he's like getting mad. I guess he's saying Judge is wrong for playing him. But if you were Joe Judge and the doctor said he's completely good, and we know as Giants fans, we hear it all the time how strenuous the concussion protocol is. They make these guys make sure they're good to go.
Yeah.
If an outside doctor comes in, which obviously he did, and says Glennon's good to go, how could I get mad at the coach for that?
Yeah, if there's no chance of re-injury, why not? I want to see Jake Fromm, as I said.
I would rather see Jake Fromm.
Yeah, if he can't get re-injured from this, then I have no reason to be upset, Why not? I don't know how concussions work really, but I assume you get it. and you pass the protocol and you're good. Like, I don't think there's any like lingering
Yeah, I mean,
effects. Maybe, but
eventually, when you play football, as soon as you put on those pads, you're running the risk of getting another concussion.
Yeah.
And I think if you get them, there's a bigger risk that you could get it again. But if you're cleared, you're cleared. I mean, if I was a head coach, I'd play him too if I felt like he gave the team the best chance to win and he was cleared. So, I want to see Fromm, like you said. But it's for the draft, new GM will draft a new quarterback in the second, not the first. What do you think of that idea in terms of waiting till the second?
Does he mean second pick in the first round?
I think he means second round. I think he means second round.
I don't know who that prospect would be. I mean, I don't know if Kenny Pickett fell to round 2. Sure, I'll take that. But yeah, I just don't see that happening. So I don't know what kind of prospect you're going to get in round 2. And if a quarterback falls to round 2, there's usually a reason why. Drew Lock did for a reason, as we saw. So, yeah.
Yeah, me personally, listen, if they're going to draft a quarterback in this year's draft, I would prefer it to be round 2 or round 3 because there's, like we said, it's not known to be the richest quarterback draft class, and there's no financial commitment in the second or third round. They could be a long-term backup. It doesn't prevent you from drafting a quarterback in the next year's draft. So that's what I'd prefer if they were going to do it. I don't want to take a quarterback in the top 10 picks because then that's like a 3-year commitment at least if you draft a quarterback that early. But if it was me, there's too many holes in this team. Now, you want to take a quarterback in round 3, maybe if, Carson Strong, even though I don't think he'll drop there. But if there's a quarterback that shouldn't be there, you want to take one round 3, sure. But I think they have much bigger needs on this team that you have the edge rusher in the second round rather than taking a flyer on a quarterback and putting him into a situation that's going to be very tough to succeed to begin with. I, as a fan, I don't want to be taking flyers on quarterbacks there. You're throwing darts at a board if you're waiting until the second round. So I personally rather go with the edge, linebacker, or potentially another lineman if you didn't take 2 with those first 2 picks in the second round.
Yeah, Chris, your boy Jalen Hurts was in the second round too. I know you love that guy.
Jalen Hurts. Oh, man. It's not so much. I mean, he's an Eagle, Mike. I can't stand all Eagles, but I had a lot of people coming on here, Giants fans, tell me how good Jalen Hurts was. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get to see him in person. I did. And he sucks. And
I was sipping the Kool-Aid for a couple weeks, and I saw the Giants game, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's freaking terrible." So we saw enough.
I'm going to tell you what, man. I think the guy in there that they started last week gives them a better chance to win than Hurts.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
and I'm a little bit surprised that they went back to Hurts, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but we'll see what happens.
That's their problem.
Yeah, Sticky Fingers, man. Thank you very much, man. Maybe to get people fired / benched that Mara forced on Judge. Maybe Judge is just too safe. Maybe the doctors are just bad. I don't know. Just pointing out that it's weird. Yeah, I mean, listen, what's weird, and people ask me this question all the time, Mike, is why do the New York Giants have so many injuries? And I don't have the answer for it. I think it's a bunch of things. I don't think it's one thing. People say the turf. People say the medical staff. I think it's a combination of the medical staff. I think it's a combination of the turf. I think it's a combination of us drafting and signing players that have an injury history. Yeah, I think it's those 3 things and some bad luck sprinkled in. I don't think it's one factor that drives the frequent injuries with the Giants.
I have it. Maybe they run too many laps at practice. There it is. There's your answer.
Well, people are saying that may have something to do with the wide receiver injuries because of hamstring injuries, maybe because they're running nose. But it's a combination of a lot of things. Frank, man, what's going on, buddy? And by the way, if you guys have not done so, check out MiketooNice. We're going to be over there next week, and we're going to be doing a podcast, like I said, at the top of the stream. Before Mike came in, we're going to be talking about that after the stream, but we're going to be doing, it's not just New York Giants, it's going to be New York sports, maybe broad sports as well. I don't know. Just going to have fun. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while. Mike approached me with it, and I think it'll be a lot of fun, but give you details on that in the coming weeks. Frank, man, thank you very much, man. I really hope they don't take a quarterback. This draft has too many quality round 1 to 3 offensive lineman, edge, linebacker prospects. Also, so close that I'd love trade downs for second-day picks and mid-first round players. Frank, and I think you're going to agree with me on this, Mike. And I don't know if you've posted this on Twitter before. I'm not sure. I know people have, and I've brought this up on my channel. I am definitely not at all against the idea of potentially trading down in the first round of this year's draft. Now, of course, it's going to depend on who's there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if Aiden Hutchinson drops, we're picking 5th or 6th, and this is a guy that I think should be a top 2 or 3 pick, just take Hutchinson. I don't want to mess around there, right? Like we talked about the trade down this year. If you go back in time, you probably just take Micah Parsons, or you probably just take Rashawn Slater. So sometimes you don't want to pass up an opportunity that's there. But if it makes sense, I am completely on board with trading down one of those first 2 picks that the New York Giants have in the first round, because it's going to give you that much more ammunition to go up and say get a quarterback in a richer quarterback draft class in 2023.
You know, Chris, I'm disappointed because I thought I was the only guy who thought about this, and here you are stealing my idea. No, I'm kidding, but it's actually a great idea. Like I've thought about this in the past as well. If you're on the board and you don't love who's there, and you're not convinced this guy's like a future Hall of Fame level prospect because you're going to be picking in the top 5 most likely. And you said get more ammunition for next year because next year we're assuming is the year they're going to go for a quarterback, whether it's draft or trade. So yeah, I am actually 100% down for that. Obviously, you don't pass on a guy you think is going to be a franchise right tackle and whatnot. But if that guy's not there and you want to get more picks for next year and get yourself that quarterback, then I'm definitely all for it. I love the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think it all depends on the board, again, who's there and so on and so forth. But I think it's something that they have to at least be open to. And based off of last year's draft, you would think they will be. But again, we don't know who the GM is going to be. But if Judge is here, I think that was Judge driven. Let's put it that way. John, man, thank you very much, man. Let's be real. Joe Judge wouldn't get another head coaching job if he were to get fired. He would crawl his way back to New England or Alabama. I mean, that's facts. Yeah. And we probably New England. We've seen that in the past. Obviously, he was kind of Belichick's right-hand man. So they brought Patricia back there. McDaniels went back there. So more than likely, Judge would end up back with New England if the New York Giants fired him. And then maybe down the line, he gets another coaching opportunity. But yeah, John, I don't think based off the job he's done here with the Giants and based off how inexperienced he is, I don't think people would be knocking down his door. There's probably going to be better opportunities. I would agree with that.
I do want to hear like an unfiltered version of how some of the top NFL coaches feel about Joe Judge. Like we saw the podcast with Sean McVay in the offseason, and McVay made it sound like he was a big Joe Judge guy, but you don't know what he's saying behind closed doors. I want to see what the actual head, I want to know how Bill Belichick actually feels about Joe Judge, but we'll never know. Of course, it's kind of just wishful thinking, but I feel like there's some coaches that definitely look at this guy and say like, this guy's a moron. Like I do feel there are coaches that say that. So with that said,
Mike, I know the fan base right now, despite a lot of the fan base is completely off the board. I don't think he's a moron. I really don't. I don't think Judge is a moron. Now there's times where I think he makes idiotic decisions. His timeout usage in that last game was really bad. And I definitely think he needs to improve a lot as a coach. I don't think he's a moron. I think his roster evaluation has actually been pretty good in terms of the drafts. I think he's brought in some pretty good players. You look at Andrew Thomas, you look at Xavier McKinney. I like some of the players they've brought in. But overall, yeah, he is definitely not he's not getting a great grade for me. Let's put it that way.
And trading back has been great with Judge too. I like that. Yeah. But just what he says in the media, like, how positive he seemed after the Dolphins.
He's like a robot. He's like a robot.
Yeah, it didn't sit right with me. I don't know how you come away with that game and be like, yeah, I like some of what I saw with the offense. And I'm like, what's this guy talking about? So stuff like that kind of annoyed me.
Yeah. No, I'll say that. He definitely needs to get better with the handling of the media. That's for when you're Belichick, Mike, you get away with that because you're winning. So Belichick can say whatever the hell he wants to the media. It doesn't matter because you're winning. And we all know that he's not the most sociable guy at
personable,
the end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he gets away with it though. But when you're with the Giants and you suck, you can't say things like that.
What's Judge's record right now? I don't even know what it is.
I think he's got 10 wins. I think last year they won. So yeah, he's got 10 wins. So how many games they played this year? They played 12. So he's 10-18. 10-18.
Yeah, not good.
Not good. Boise Bird, man, thank you very much, man. Really hope we double down on the O-line in the first round. Doubt it though. I wouldn't doubt it. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. That's going to be something that when the season's over and I see where we're picking, what I think is going to be the most likely thing. But I certainly think that's possible because it's a strong offensive line class and it's something that we need. We need another tackle, and we need a lot of help on the interior. So I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not saying it's the most likely. I think edge obviously is a strong possibility depending on who's there. I think quarterback is a possibility. I think offensive line's a possibility, maybe even a corner if one dropped that they really liked. But I wouldn't rule it out at all. I think it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, I'm with you. It depends on who the new GM is. If this new GM is like a you win in the trenches type of guy, then we very well may see it. But if it's more of like I'm taking the best player available no matter what type thing, then maybe we see different positions. But I don't know. It depends on the philosophy of who the GM is. And I think we'll know, like we'll pick up on some clues based on how the first press conference with the GM goes, because I'm sure somebody will ask that question of, hey, you have two first round picks and a terrible offensive line. Will you look to upgrade in the first round? I feel like based on that answer, we'll probably get some clues, but it just depends who the person is.
Let me ask you, Mike, because I think we know like the in-house guys of who it could potentially be with the New York Giants, that being O'Brien, that being Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the Patriots guys, you got Scott Pioli, who's got former GM experience. You've got people have talked about Louis Riddick, the TV personality who's interviewed with the Giants in the past, Dave Ziegler, Elliott Wolf. These are Patriot guys. Two guys that I really like if they're going for an outside guy. You've mentioned him in the past. We've talked about him. Ed Dodds is a guy I love. Yeah. And I'm going to have a video up on this tomorrow talking about the GM candidates, but he's a guy I love. He's been a guy that's been talked about around the NFL as being the best scout in the entire National Football League. And you look at some of the drafts that the Colts have had, they've been great. And the other guy I like, and I don't know how familiar you are with him, Mike, I like Mike Borgonzi.
I've heard of him, yeah.
From the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been a scout there for 11 years. I think Pete Traeger, I read an article where I talked about it, that he's the secret weapon of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been a guy, that's been talked about in GM circles. If they're going outside the organization, those are two guys that I would like.
Yeah, that's actually some of the names that I think of as well. I haven't really made like a list yet of guys I want, but those guys will be on that short list of like guys I would want. Like if I were John Mara, I would definitely interview those guys. I will say that. I've been an Ed Dodds guy for a couple of years now. Very impressed with what the Colts have done and the way they build that team. And it sucks for them because, Andrew Luck kind of retired on the fly and they had to kind of really just like, I don't know. They just did not expect that, obviously. So the way they built that team, though, trading for Wentz, and he kind of looks like the old Carson Wentz, not the MVP Wentz, but like the 2018 Wentz, where he was like a pretty good quarterback. They hit on that as well. So I mean, they always trade back when necessary, and they build that team correctly. The offensive line in Indianapolis is tremendous, and the Chiefs have their flaws, but like they also found themselves.
I mean, we talk about offensive line, Mike. They fixed it in one offseason.
Which I've been told is impossible. So yeah, they do that, and yeah, I mean, I would definitely sign up for either guy right now. I will say. I mean, I know I can't interview them. I don't know how they are as people. I've seen videos of them talking, but I wish I could actually sit down and like get to know them. But unfortunately, we can't as fans.
Now, I will say it's a lot easier to fix the offensive line when you got Andy Reid as your play caller and Holmes as your quarterback. Yep. But they've obviously evaluated talent very well there. True Rappers, man, thank you very much. Hello, just popped in. God rest DT. Hope you guys are doing well. Oh, Demaryius Thomas. Yeah, absolutely, man. Horrible story, man. He was 33, going to be 34 on Christmas. I remember, I know you're a fantasy football guy, Mike. I remember I drafted Demaryius Thomas in a keeper league the year before he blew up when Peyton Manning became the quarterback that year. I drafted him in like the 10th round, and I got to keep him for 3 years after that, his 3 best years. But Demaryius Thomas was a tremendous player for the Broncos there. I think he ended up with the Patriots, never really cracked the roster there and finished with the Jets. But always, and everything that you hear after the fact, he was a great guy. Always, you always notice it when you're watching the games. Had a great smile, seemed like a good teammate, and just a horrible story there. I think they said it was due to a seizure, man. But horrible news yesterday.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. Like you saw some rumors on Twitter, and I don't know if it was like some a-hole making up rumors, and then you actually see it happens, and it's like, holy crap. I talked about it in my Giants preview video for a little bit. Like it's so weird, like seeing these like guys that obviously I didn't grow up with Demaryius Thomas, but like just I've watched him for like my entire life, I feel like, since being a football fan. And like
he caught the Tebow catch too, right, in the playoff game.
Yeah, that was him. Yeah. So he's had some very big moments. Championship. I think he once broke the record for most receptions in a Super Bowl. That was broken by somebody else. But guy had a phenomenal career. And as you mentioned, he was a great guy too. So, I mean, I made a video about him actually like 6 months ago, like what happened to Demaryius Thomas type video. So I kind of dove into his past, and he was a great guy. So it's just, it's a shame that happened to him. And it's like these guys are just taken away from us so quickly. Like, I think back to Jose Fernandez. I was just like ruined for a week.
Oh, God, man.
That was terrible. And
that was even sadder than this, because that was a boat. I mean, he was drunk or whatever, but it was a boat accident. And
he was 25, 24. It was,
Yeah, that was horrible, man.
I hate that.
One thing I was thinking of, and I'm not a doctor, and it was just what I was thinking when I heard about the seizure today. Do you think it's possible it goes back to football related? That's the first thing that popped in my head.
First thing I thought of too. Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. Mm-hmm. Whether CT and things like that, but it was just a horrible. When I heard that last night, I was like you said, I was following, and I kept refreshing Twitter because, like you said, there were a lot of people. You're like, this might just be a troll.
Yeah, right.
And then when I saw the verified guy say it, my heart just sank. I'm like, oh my God.
Man. Yeah. But yeah, my mind went to the same spot about football. Did that do it? But who knows?
Well, we might know. They might do they might do research on his brain or whatever. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. Alphabet, man. Thank you very much, man. I call him Alphabet because of his name. He says, best thing for Jones' health and career is to move to another team. I will say it again, like I've said since 2014, all first-round picks on the O-line. I mean, you think like I do, man. I'm with you on that. Listen, I think the best thing for anybody on this team for the most part is to go to another team, but especially somebody that's on the offense that does not play the line because you rely on the crappy line that we have. So whether it be the quarterback, whether it be Barkley, whether it be anybody on this team right now, I think it would. I do think Jones would perform better on another team. I think that goes without saying. We're about as bad of a situation as you could be in.
Yeah, it sucks. I feel bad for Daniel Jones. I don't know if Daniel Jones will ever succeed anywhere else, but like the fact that he was never given a shot here, just in like 3 years too. Like you spent all this money, you had all these high picks, and you still couldn't give the guy a decent team and decent offensive coordinator. It's just I don't know. I feel bad for him. So
horrible, man. Barkley too. I mean, not that I know Barkley's not working and fans are down on him, but they set both of them up to fail.
Yeah.
Couldn't have drafted him, but they set him up to fail.
It's the team's fault, not the players. It's who drafted them. It's the team.
Yeah. Jake, man, thank you very much, man. Name 5 players to build around for the future. Currently on the team, I'm assuming you're asking. Andrew Thomas, that's number 1. Plays, in my opinion, the second most important position on a football team. There's nobody else on the offensive line that's long-term right now, in my opinion. Maybe somebody will surprise me, like Shane Lemieux or someone like that. But right now, the only guy I could say is Andrew Thomas. Xavier McKinney, for sure. He's number 2. He's the second guy that I think of, a guy that's definitely a playmaker in that secondary. I'm not sure. Who are you going to say?
Ojulari.
Yeah, I would lean. He'd probably be in my top 5, even though I'm not completely sold on Ojulari yet, but I like him. So, yes, he'd probably be in my top 5. Tony, you'd have to say, first-round pick this year. He's got to stay healthy, but you got to say Tony, Ojulari, McKinney, Thomas. So the last, the first and second pick of each draft. How about Aaron Robinson? He's impressed me so far, Mike. Maybe it's a little premature to say that, but he's not making a lot of money. He's young. He's a guy that could progress as a pro. He'd definitely be in my top 7 or 8 probably on this team. So I'll throw his name in the hat. I'll say Aaron Robinson.
My one guy I was thinking of was Leonard Williams, because he might be here for a little bit. 2 more years, obviously, and he's been in the New Jersey, New York area his entire career. Well, not in college, but since being a pro. And I feel like he'll want to stay here. I feel like you know what I mean? I feel like I could see him being a Giant for a long time, Leonard Williams. So I don't know if that's the right move, but I feel like that's another guy who might be in here. I know he's not like the youngest guy, but that's one guy that came to mind as well. But that's a good list. All the young guys that you pretty much mentioned.
Dory Jackson too is a possibility. He's still young, and I think he's played well for the Giants this year. And
definitely,
we'll see if but again, no attachments to the new GM. But he's another guy too that I think could be a nice piece long term for the Giants.
It's about health with him. Yeah, if you told me he was healthy, yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. Who knows at this point?
Yeah. And independent, man, thank you very much, man. How many players are we going to ruin by not addressing the offensive line? DJ, Saquon, who else? It's not uncommon in the NFL. Just look at Andrew Luck. Well, I mean, you go down the list longer than that, but yes, those are the two guys most recently that definitely were not given a very good opportunity. Let's put it that way. But Mike, the thing is, sometimes we've tried to address the offensive line. It has not worked. We drafted Will Hernandez, did not work. We drafted Eric Flowers, did not work. So even if we try to address it, we got to make sure the guys work. And some of that definitely goes to coaching. Like you think about Eric Flowers, and Eric Flowers sucks. And I sucked with the Giants.
Yeah.
And I laugh when I see people on Twitter say, "Oh my God, we should have kept Flowers. The Giants are stupid." Do you remember Eric Flowers with the New York Giants? He was horrible at the tackle position. But you look at Flowers, and a lot of fans said this while he was with the New York Giants. And Giants fans said, try him at the guard. He looks like he could be better situated at the guard. He goes to another team. They identify that. They play him at the guard, and now he's playing at a very high level. So some of it certainly goes to the coaching. Some of it goes, obviously, to the players, missed draft picks, not evaluating the talent properly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. I mean, like they do spend assets and money on the offensive line. They never get it right, unfortunately. So it's not like the Giants are just completely neglecting the offensive line. I will say that you mentioned even Weston Richburg, 2nd round pick, was a guy we invested highly.
Justin Pugh, 1st round pick.
Justin Pugh, Nate Solder, Flowers. It's just there's a lot of guys. You go up and down the list. We traded for Zeitler. But it just seems like with the draft picks, especially, they never get it right. You have to get the right talent evaluator. And if they do, then, we've seen teams fix their offensive lines in 1 or 2 years, and we're doing this for a decade. It's annoying because if you don't have the right offensive line, you're putting so much into your quarterback and your play caller to, make up for that deficiency, and it's almost impossible. So we don't have a superstar quarterback. We don't have a superstar play caller. We don't have Andy Reid, Sean McVay on the sidelines. So like we're kind of just left in this position where it's like, well, I guess we suck on offense, and that's how it's been for a while.
It's true, and you can't. Even when we had a good offense in 2015, it was smoke and mirrors. We couldn't run the ball consistently. We had a big playmaker with Beckham. That was it. Chris, man, thank you very much, man. To me, the Giants need to bring in competition at quarterback. Jones should earn his job next year. I agree with you on that, Chris. And it's not even if you feel like Jones doesn't require competition. If somebody in this chat feeling that way, and I understand, maybe you do feel that way. Maybe you're like, this guy could be good. Let's fix the line and give him the 4th year. His injury history alone, you need to have a much stronger backup next year.
Yeah.
You can't go into next year with a backup similar to a guy like Mike Glennon. I mean, if Jones does not play this year, he's missed 10 games in his first 3 years. So we need to bring in a much better backup next year. That has to be a priority if we bring Daniel Jones back.
Yeah, I remember I made a video last offseason about like what I wanted the Giants to do, and I had them bringing in Jacoby Brissett, and some people were giving me a lot of crap
we
for
both
it.
Said that. I remember that. We both said that because
right.
we said Brissett had ties to Judge and he had ties to Shaplinski, the quarterback coach. I thought it made it actually. I thought that would have been perfect. Of course, we didn't have a lot in the budget after we signed some.
It was a financial issue. I think if the Giants had the money, they would do it, but they just do not have the money, so they just can't bring in like a good backup quarterback. So they settle for the Mike Lennons and the Jake Fromms of the world. So that's a lot on Daniel Jones's plate, but Daniel Jones was drafted here to be the guy. So I do get it from that perspective. But with the injuries included, I would like a more established backup next year. I will say that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. Adam, man, thank you very much, man. I remember 2017, we lost 4 wide receivers in 1 game. I know it was ridiculous. Yes. The same thing keeps happening every year. Half the team is hurt. It's going to be it's got to be the medical staff. I'm Adam. I don't know what it is, but it's certainly something that maybe they want to look into. Let's put it that way. I think there's a bunch of factors that it could be, but maybe it's the medical staff, maybe it's the coaching, maybe it's the turf. I don't know. But it seems like we've had a lot of bad luck on this football team for a while when it comes to injuries.
It's probably like we're cursed, the turf, and the medical staff. It's got to be all 3. It's something. You know what I mean? Like no team is.
I think, Mike, this is my theory. I think we're still paying back all the good fortune we had on those 2 Super Bowl runs, and the NFL guys are like, no, you're gonna have 15 years of pain to make up for you going on those 2 Super Bowl runs with a 10-6 and 9-7 football team.
Well, it was still worth it, but these times suck, I will say.
Sure, they suck. Pete, thank you very much. In my mind, we need to draft 2 O-linemen with our first or package them for Wilson. All right, now we're going to get into the Wilson discussion. Sure, we need better pass rush, but we currently have no quarterback or a line to protect the quarterback. That's all that matters. All right, let's talk about Russell Wilson. I know that's a topic. First off, Russell Wilson is out of his mind if he wants to come. From a football standpoint, he's out of his mind. So that's why I'm not going to put too much stock into it. If I'm Russell Wilson, I'm thinking about prolonging my career. I'm thinking about making as much money as I possibly can. I'm looking at a situation like the New Orleans Saints, and I'm saying to myself, I could play behind that offensive line with Sean Payton in a dome. I could play for another 3 years there outside of, in comparison to a team like the New York Giants. And I could kind of say the same thing about the Broncos, the thin air, having all those young weapons. So if I'm Russell Wilson, from a football's perspective, I'm not even thinking about the Giants. Of course, there may be more that goes into it, right? A lot of people said that the decision for LeBron James, for example, when he went to the Lakers was not basketball driven. He was thinking about, life after basketball. Right. So maybe that is what it would be. So I'll start with that. I think it'd be a dumb decision, if I'm being honest with you, if Russell Wilson wanted to come to the Giants over those 2 destinations. Now, what I'll say, if it was legitimate, which maybe it is, maybe he does legitimately want to come to the Giants, what would be enticing for me as a Giants fan? If it's 2 first-round picks, like Pete just said, I hang up the phone. I'm not trading 2 first-round picks for a 33-year-old quarterback going on 34 when I have the team that I currently have, and knowing that it's going to be at least 2 years, probably, even if everything breaks right, if I draft well, that I'm going to be able to compete, to have a legitimate shot to even contend to win a Super Bowl, especially if I'm giving up 2 first-round picks. Now, if it's 1 first-round pick, 1, I entertain it. And this is how I would justify it, Mike. If I would have told you in 2020, and again, this is not the route that I want to go. Anybody that's listening, I want to start by saying that this is not the route that I want to go. I want to build long-term. I want to build in the draft. I want to draft offensive linemen, and I prefer to take a quarterback in 2023 if Daniel Jones is not the long-term answer. But if we're playing this hypothetical, if I would have told you, Mike, in 2020, trading down from 11 to 20, you're going to end up with Kadarius Toney and Russell Wilson. Do you sign up for that?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
That would be what it was, because you're giving up that first round pick you received in the trade. You'd get Russell Wilson and you get Kadarius Toney.
And this is a Seahawks team without a first round pick because of the Jamal Adams trade. So they want one.
They could draft Wilson's replacement with that pick.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for one first round pick, yeah, I would do it. I'm not doing it for two, though.
There's a lot to unravel with the whole Russell Wilson
And of
thing.
course, there's got to be players included to offset the money.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, I was actually gonna make a video tomorrow just talking about the whole thing. It's for me, it's not like a no brainer. It's not like Russell Wilson wants the Giants. Let's make it happen. It's not like that for me. You mentioned it. This team can't support many guys. Russell Wilson can overcome a bad team. We've seen it for years, but like 2 first-round picks, which are very valuable, I wouldn't do that. I can't give up the 2 first-round picks. I can do 1, as you mentioned. I did say that, but I don't know. 2 is too much for me for a guy his age and on this team. And Russell Wilson was complaining last offseason about getting sacked too much. Well, what the hell are the Giants going to do for you? It's probably even worse here. You might get sacked even more. And I do think a lot of it could be like LeBron James and kind of be like a career after football type thing. And possibly his wife can influence the decision to come to this New York area. But listen, the Seahawks are not giving him up for nothing. I would start kind of low and offer 1 first-round pick, but once they get to 2, it's like, no, I can't do it. Like, I'd rather just rebuild the correct way, as you mentioned. I would love to see Russell number 3 in blue. It'd be great, but I don't know. I just think it's too much to ask for, and the 2 first-round picks are not, I can't do that.
I could see it happening, though, and I'm with you. I don't want it to happen. The reason I could see it happening is because you have an owner that I'm not so sure he's going to feel like he can convince the fan base that we're going to rebuild again. And you have a head coach, if they bring Judge back, which I'm still leaning they will, that potentially is coaching for his job. And if you're Joe Judge going into next year, Mike, do you honestly feel in your heart, if you have Jones starting at quarterback who has not proven to be great yet, and he's got injury problems, that he gives you a chance to win more than 7 games, say? And if you don't win more than 6 or 7 games, there's a good chance you're going to be fired. So that's why I do think it's at least possible that if the right deal was there, that the Giants may at least pick up the phone. But I'm with you, man. I'm a long-term thinker. That's the way I've always been. I want this team to build the team properly. I don't think we're a quarterback away from contending for a Super Bowl. I think a team like the Saints would make a lot more sense. I think a team like the Broncos would make a lot more sense. If you're going to give up that kind of draft capital to bring a quarterback in my opinion, you have to feel like you're almost immediately a Super Bowl contender. Like the Rams did with Matt Stafford, with the draft capital that they gave up, that you're going to immediately get a return on your investment. And I wouldn't feel that way. And if it's going to take you 2 years, now you're talking he's going to be like 36 years old, and you don't even know what type of quarterback he's going to be at that point. So I'm with you, man. And he's shown some regression in play this year. I know he's been banged up, and he has no help there with Seattle, but it's not like he'd have much help here either.
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned it. Some of the guys in charge here, whether it's John Mara or Joe Judge, and we'll start with John Mara. I mean, obviously he wants to win here, and he might look at Russell Wilson as that guy that can do that, and he might not care about the price. And you look at Joe Judge, who, if he's here for year 3, knows that he is very much on the hot seat and has to get wins. And if you're Joe Judge, you don't really care much about like the future. You just want to win and save your job. So you look at it as Daniel Jones versus Russell Wilson. Who do I want? We all know what the answer is. So he might just go, all right, I'll give up the 2 first for Russell Wilson. What do I care what the Giants look like in 2025 when I'm not here?
He's got to worry about 2022.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another part of it. So I don't trust the guys in charge either. That's another part.
We'll see. It's going to be a really fun offseason to cover because there's going to be tons of rumors. You already know it, whether it be the draft, whether it be potential trades, and I'm looking forward to it.
I will say Russell Wilson said in 2019, I just watched an interview, he wants to play for 10 or 15 more years. I don't know how likely that is, but the guy is nowhere close to retiring, obviously. So if he can play at near this level for another, let's call it 7 years, then at that point it's worth it. But we don't know.
But to combat your point, Mike, if his goal is to play for 8 more years, this should be the last organization he should want to play for.
That's true. Yeah.
let's be real. I mean, he's going to get killed here at least his first year. So I would want to go into a much more stable spot in terms of feeling like I'm protected, right? He's complained about the offensive line his whole career with Seattle. If he came here, I think it would be for off the football reasons, off the field reasons. And Selmo, man, thank you very much, man. I just don't think we will get a good quarterback without a high pick. Most teams build a team with drafting young quarterbacks. We are heading for trouble. I mean, who knows? I mean, here's what I'll say, Mike. You look around the league, you don't always necessarily need a very high pick to find a good quarterback. And I think a lot of the reasons why these guys work out is because the team is set up properly. Dak Prescott was, a 3rd or 4th round pick, but the Cowboys set it up well. Aaron Rodgers was a late 1st round pick. Drew Brees was a 2nd round pick. Tom Brady's 6th round pick. I'm not, but I agree with him in the sense that yes, I would prefer to use a early pick, an early 1st round pick or my 1st round pick on the quarterback, but I don't want to invest that much in the position until such time I feel like I could at least have a decent situation for this guy to step in and succeed.
It's hard. Yeah, there's guys, there's the Drew Breeses, as you mentioned, the Tom Brady's and the Russell Wilsons. It's tough to find those guys, though. You know what I mean? So most times when you're looking for a great quarterback, you're looking top 10 pick.
Yeah.
But even Patrick Mahomes was traded up for, and Deshaun Watson went to a pretty good situation. There are guys that, like, some teams will trade up for. Mac Jones fell to 15. He's been good this year. So there are times where sometimes the right quarterback falls to the right team, and it happens. But with us, like a team that's picking the top 5 most years, top 10 at least, we're going to have to take a quarterback highly. I don't see us being like a team coming off a 12-win season next year and being like, all right, let's trade up for a quarterback, because I don't know how the Giants get to 12 wins next year. So the Giants will probably be picking towards the top, have to fix their offensive line this year, and hopefully they do that. So,
and I'll tell you what, Mike, if they win 12 games next year, Jones is probably going to stay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If Jones is the quarterback, he's going to stay. So he's not going to be drafting a quarterback.
Yeah,
so
right.
We will be picking, at least in the first half of next year's draft, not this upcoming, the following year's draft, if we need a quarterback. At least that's my take, unless you go with a stopgap and you have a unexpected season. But that's my take. Nelson, thank you very much, Pop. And he says, what's going on, Chris? I know you're not a soccer fan, but are you going to watch MLS Cup final between I will not. I'm not going to lie to you, Nelson. Maybe I'll turn it on if it's a big deal. The only time I watch soccer, Mike, and I don't know how you feel about the sport, and I'm not trying to knock the sport. I know a lot of people watching the stream, like Nelson, probably like the sport. I like the World Cup. I could get into the World Cup. The last World Cup, I couldn't because the U.S. wasn't in it, and Italy wasn't in it. And that's usually my second team. Since I'm half Italian, I pull for them if the U.S. is out. It was the first World Cup they didn't qualify for in like 50 years. So I'm not a big soccer. I can't get in there. I don't know. Maybe it's because I didn't grow up playing it. I don't know. But I'm not a huge soccer guy.
My soccer background is I signed up. Well, I didn't sign. My parents signed me up when I was 4 years old. Went to one practice and cried my eyes out. Never played again. I'd never been a soccer guy, even when I was a kid and could barely make my own decisions. I just never liked it. FIFA's kind of fun, the video game, but outside of that, I don't really. I don't love watching it. I will put it that way. I don't want to say anything bad, because there are a lot of soccer people out there, and it is like there's
I have such respect for soccer players.
Yeah, there's a
when I watch a soccer game, Mike, I'm like, they are probably the best conditioned athletes. Like those guys go start to finish. Like they're incredible athletes.
I could never. That's why I respect it, and I respect the art and the craft of it. But just watching it, I could never get into it. So soccer's not for me.
Yeah, maybe I'll flip it on for like 5 minutes. John, man, thank you very much, man. Wanted to talk about Patrick Graham a little. He's getting a lot of hate from the fan base, and think Patrick Graham is protecting his players by playing zone. Our offense can't score. If Patrick Graham played aggressive, our DBs would get burned. Hey, listen, when you're bad, John, you know this. The fan base is going to look for everything and anything to pick on. What I'll say about Patrick Graham, I thought last game I thought he played too much zone in that game specifically. It got the hiccups again. I thought he played too much zone in that game specifically early on, and then he made the adjustments. Going up against a quarterback like Tua. But usually I defend him in playing zone because I think it's the proper game plan overall because of the deficiencies on our defense. We don't have the ability to get after the quarterback. We don't have a great edge rusher. He knows that, especially with Adoree Jackson out. He knows he can't play press man, and these guys are going to shred him apart. He tried to do that the first week. We blitzed 50% of the time. We made Teddy Bridgewater look like a Joe Montana. So I think Patrick Graham's game plan, for the most part, week to week, knowing that he doesn't have incredible talent on his defense, is to make the quarterback work. Make it be a 15, 16 play drive and rely on the team to make mistakes, whether that be a penalty to get them in the 1st and 20, whether that be an interception, a fumble, a missed throw, a miscalculation. Especially if you have a limited quarterback, it's bound to happen. I think that's kind of been his game plan since he's gotten here. And with the lack of talent on this defense, especially with some of the injuries we have, you think Martinez is out, Jackson's out. Week to week, I think that's usually the best game plan. Last week, I would have been more aggressive, though, early on.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled with the defensive game plan against Miami, but it's also like, what are you supposed to do? You just talked about the personnel. I would love to see how Patrick Graham would call a game with a great team, but like, we're not, like, our defense is fine, but it's not like it could be better. There's too many deficiencies. You talked about the pass rushers. We don't get to the quarterback very often at all. So That's part of it. And some guys are injured, of course, not having a cornerback too right now. Aaron Robinson's been fine, but I'm sure the coaching staff has more trust in the veteran Jackson than they do Aaron Robinson playing in like his third game. So, yeah, I do want to see what he looks like with a different team, but I don't think Patrick Graham's a problem with this team. I don't know if he's protecting his players by playing more zone and all that, but he's one of the coaches I like. I'll put it that way. I do like Patrick Graham. I think he's a smart guy and makes the necessary adjustments most times, but just the personnel here is not that great. Let's be honest. Until you get like a real pass rush, I can't really sit here and judge the defensive coordinator like I want to. So he's kind of in a bad spot.
We need a coverage linebacker too. That's something that we desperately need, man. Frank, man, thank you very much. He says, if Hutchinson is there, yeah, I don't trade down. But if not, I'd love the Bullets to take Harris, Bonito. I have not done enough research. I think those three players absolutely give us a top 3 defense. We'll see. I mean, we'll see, Frank, what they elect to do in the first round of this year's draft. If they trade down me, I still am probably going to be in favor of them taking an offensive lineman. But again, take the best player that at a need. You have to match need, and I think as the draft goes along, Mike, and I think some people think the opposite way. My take on it, actually, early on in the draft, I try to match need with best player available.
Yeah.
As the draft goes further along, I'm almost looking exclusively best player available.
Yep.
Because if you're around 3, around 4, around 5, those guys more often than not, at least if you're a pretty good team, you're not banking on those guys to be immediate impact players. You're just trying to get the best available player at any position. And I think that's kind of the way the Giants have drafted over the last couple of years. But for me, I think you have to try to value need and best player available in the first round.
I think the same way. Even half the first round picks bust in the NFL. So once you get to round 3, 4, 5, you better take the guy who you think's gonna be a good player. I agree with that. Obviously in the first round, if you're the Giants and like the best player available is, I was gonna say left tackle, but you could move him the right tackle. Let's just say he's an exclusive left tackle.
Hamilton, for example, the safety out of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
If he's available, do you take him or do you try to fill your offensive line or your edge rusher?
I always want best player available with a mixture of positional value. That's the way I look at it. And safety is not, it's kind of important, but I would still rather.
A lot of people think he's the best player in this draft, but I'm with you. I don't want to take a safety.
I'd still rather take like a right tackle. That's like what I want right now. So I don't know. There's a lot to think about with the draft over the next coming months here, but I definitely some people have that philosophy of just take 2 offensive linemen. I wouldn't do that. Just reach on a position. It has to be the right players, I
agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that. You don't just do it to do it. If there's a guy, if there's a linebacker that you're in love with or an edge rusher you're in love with, you certainly could take one with one of those picks. We have other needs on the team. I agree with that.
I'm fine with that.
DeGrom, but I would love 2 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
DeGrom says, Jets opposite of the Giants. Offense performs, defense lets up. Believe it or not, we averaged 390 yards per game in the last 6 games. Zach's finally going through his progressions. No forced throws recently. I know your offense has been playing better. I know your defense is definitely limited, and we'll see. I think he's going to be good. Like Mike said, I was a fan of him when you drafted him, and I know he struggled early on, but you kind of expect that, especially being that you guys are limited offensively. You don't really have a number 1 weapon. Your offensive line's still young. So I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to progress as long as you set him up well. And we'll see if the New York Jets can do that. They have not been able to do that in the past for their quarterback. So, but I think he'll be fine for you guys.
You know what pissed me off about the Jets? How one of their players came out and said they weren't even preparing for Gardner Minshew, which really just, if I was a Jets fan, that would piss me off a lot. I don't know. We knew Jalen Hurts was pretty much out the entire week. And then someone was like, oh, yeah, we didn't really prepare for Gardner Minshew. I'm like, what kind of coaching is that? What's wrong with you? So that annoyed me. I will say, I'm not even a Jets fan. I don't care. So
that would annoy me too.
Yeah.
Let me, I got Zion, man. I got your members chat here, and then I'm going to get to this one. Zion, man, thank you for being a member for 4 months. What's up, fam? Giants for life. Even though it's a landfill right now, we could be Lions fans. And yes, offensive line, edge. Keep our heads, Giants fans. 8 championships. Hey, man, I love your positivity. I don't blame Giants fans for being down in the dumps, though, man. I don't blame them, but I love your positivity, man. I really do. And then he says, for the fan, man. I really appreciate that, Zion, man. Thank you for being such a great supporter. And then MYG Jeffy, man, thank you for being a member for 2 months. He says, Ojulari, Tony Robinson, Thomas McKinney are my top 5 guys. And I think those are the exact top 5 I said. Yep. Yeah. Keep up the great work, guys. And maybe the Giants will be good in the next 5 years. I hope it's next year. But realistically speaking, I hope in 2 years, but hopefully they surprise us next year and they're good. I'm sick and tired of talking about an underwhelming bad football team. Last year brought us some hope, and this year we're back down in the dumps. So I hope that won't be the case next year. But it is what it is.
This is a good question right here. This is a good question.
This is a great question.
Yeah.
Ryan says, are we going to score a touchdown this week? Mike, I'll let you start.
Well, I looked at the Vegas implied point totals. The Giants have a 16.5 implied total. So based on that, I'll go yes. And I think this will be a big Saquon Barkley game. I can't believe I'm saying that. But we know how bad the Chargers run defense is. They're 31st in the NFL. Like, this has to be the Saquon game where he goes over 100 yards finally. By the way, did you watch Thursday Night Football and see how big the running lanes for Dalvin Cook were? I think people in this chat could have got 5 yards of carry last night.
He said it after the game. Did you watch his post-game interview? He told, I forgot who was interviewing, but the female reporter said you could have gotten 5 yards of carry.
Oh yeah,
because they were showing the big holes on his runs. Man. Whenever I watch a primetime game, Mike, that is the first thing I always look at, because that's what I'm obsessed with, because that's what we have not been able to have since the last Super Bowl. And last night it was ridiculous. The running lanes that Dalvin Cook had start to finish, the holes were ridiculous. And it makes me jealous as a Giants fan. Yeah,
not to take anything away from Dalvin, he's a great running back, but like, damn, like that was very impressive by the Vikings O-line. But yeah, I say the Giants score a touchdown on Sunday. Hopefully more, but I'm going with one. Yeah.
If we score a touchdown on defense, we'll score a touchdown. That's my answer.
There we go.
If we get a pick six or if we intercept the ball with inside the 10-yard line, we'll get a touchdown.
Yeah, you never know.
Outside of that, I'll say 50-50 at best. But we'll see. The Chargers have a decent defense. I think they're ranked kind of middle of the league. Like you said, the run defense is bad. The offense, what you got to worry about. Herbert's got 27 touchdown passes this year. But, going to have a couple of guys out for their offense. I think Eckler's questionable as well. So we'll see what they come with. I think the defense will keep them somewhat in check, but our offense, I don't have much confidence in at all this week with our backup quarterback.
Will you, let me ask you this. Will you have any, when you watch Justin Herbert play, will you kind of feel like that should have been us, or do you not care about that stuff?
That's a great question. I actually posted that on Twitter this week. I said, prepare Giants fans. It's going to be depressing watching the game this week because they have Rashawn Slater, who a lot of us wanted, and they have Justin Herbert, who probably would have been the Giants quarterback had he come out in 2019. I'm not going to feel that way, Mike, because honestly, I don't think we could have ever taken him because, people talk about how we could have drafted him the next year. No, we couldn't have. Daniel Jones had a good year. It was not an Arizona Cardinals situation where Josh Rosen was pitiful. So outside him coming out in 2019, it was never really a realistic possibility. So I'm not going to feel that way. But at the same time, do I wish he was a Giant? Of course. The guy's one of the top 5 talented quarterbacks probably in the league right now with huge upside. So, I'm not going to enjoy watching him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I enjoy watching good quarterbacks play, but just
not against us.
Yeah, not like knowing that Gettleman loved the guy and we don't have him is like it's kind of
annoying. There's no question in my mind he would have been a Giant had he come out in 2019, but it didn't happen. Bill, man, thank you very much. He says our primary talent evaluator is Chris Mara. Yeah, he's a scout on the team. John Mara's brother. He's head of scouting since 2011. A decade of crap picks followed. I'm very worried it will be more of the same thing going forward. Yeah, Bill, a lot of Giants fans have been going after John Mara for still having Chris Mara on the staff this entire this season, rather. Rightfully so. I don't know how big of a role he has. Maybe that's his title. I should not be here. If he does not seem super qualified, let's put it that way.
I'll say this. When I wrote John Mara a letter 2 months ago, I included his brother's name in there, and not for good reason. So I'll leave it at that. I want him out.
If they're going to make a change to it's not going to happen. He's not going to fire his brother, but they probably should. Chris Peace, he says 2022 first-round pick, third-round pick, 2023 first-round pick, and Daniel Jones for Russell Wilson. No.
Wait,
no, it's first.
Pick, third round pick. This is a good trade. I thought
you said, you meant no to the 2 first in this year's draft.
Yes. If it's next year's,
you'd be open to 2 first overall.
Yeah.
I would.
Okay. I'm really
now, would I include other picks? Potentially. Like if it was this year's first, a third, and maybe a future fourth. But I don't think I want to go as far as 2 first. Me personally.
I respect that. Yeah. I feel like you can talk me into this. I'm not going to lie. I really think you could. So I'll leave it at that.
Hey, I can understand that, man. He's a very good quarterback, obviously. Let's see what we got. Irish Rover says, Chris and Mike, enjoying your content as a lifelong Giants fan. Disappointment and frustration comes with being a Giants fan. Never lose the faith. I ain't never going to lose the faith, Irish. There's going to be times where I'm depressed. Especially when you're doing the live streams and you're surrounded by fans. It's like a mob with Mike. When I'm doing these live streams sometimes, and the Giants are getting destroyed, and everybody in the chat is just going ballistic, and then they come at me sometimes because they're like, "Oh, Chris, you thought they could win 9 games before the year started." I feel like I'm like surrounded by people with like torches
pitchforks,
and pitchforks,
yeah.
and that is not fun for me, being surrounded by that kind of environment. But I'm never going to stop rooting for my team. I love the New York Giants. I'll always love the New York Giants. They've given me a lot of heartache in recent years. I'll be the first to tell you that. But I'm never going to stop supporting this team, and I'm always going to try to be a glass half full guy and hope that this team is doing the proper things. Unfortunately, since I've been on YouTube, they haven't. So
yeah,
that's my take on that, man.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely the more glass half full guy compared to me, I must say. But I'm one of those people that's like, I'm always brutally honest and try to tell it how it is. And if I just don't think the Giants are good, I usually say it. Like that's how I am. So
yeah, but that
people hate me for it, but it's like that's just my personality.
They shouldn't hate you, man. You're giving your honest opinion. But it is what it is, man. We just hope.
But it's also not fair that people are coming after you because you predicted 9 wins. That's kind of like
everybody predicted 9 wins.
Yeah, I was at 8. I was close enough, right?
Yeah, most people predicted 9 wins. But and what I will say, Mike, is this, man. I predicted 9 wins like 2-3 months before the season started. Had I never predicted 9 wins, and 2 weeks before the year started, when I saw that the New York Giants were scrambling to get all these offensive linemen, if I'm being honest, Mike, before the year started, I'm not going to go back on my win prediction that I've been talking about for 2 months at that point. But in my head, I'm like, yeah, this season could be a disaster.
Yeah.
Like I up until that point, I was pretty confident they're going to win at least 8 games if we could even stay remotely healthy, which we have not. But once they were scrambling for offensive linemen at the end, man, I was like, oh my God. Obviously, after Lemieux went down, Gates went down, I did not have a good feeling, nearly as good of a feeling as I did 2 months prior before the season started.
I was hoping for the best, but if you asked me, do you think the Giants finish closer to 12 wins or 6? I would have said 6 because that's how I am.
You should.
Yeah, right.
You should. I would say our max going in, I felt, was 10.
Yeah.
And I thought if we stayed relatively healthy, 8. I thought between 8 and 10 wins, maybe 7.
Right.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Michael, man, thank you very much, man. Never am able to catch your live stream anymore, man. Just wanted to extend my appreciation. Well, I got you here. Keep it up, bro. I really appreciate that, Michael, man. Thank you so much, man, for all the support. And yeah, man, gonna have a video out tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully some of you guys check it out. Talking about the potential GM candidates. I was gonna do it today, but then I was like, I was talking to Mike, and I was like, let's just do the show today, and then I'll do the video tomorrow. So, but I'll have a video up on some potential GM candidates tomorrow, being that I think we both agree that Dave Gettleman won't be back next year, and we won't have to talk about Dave anymore. The only thing I'm upset about, Mike, is I've been doing a draft video on YouTube since I started called the Gettleman Project, where I go through all these simulations as to what the Giants should do. And now I got to come up with a new name for it. And I don't know if the next GM's name is going to roll off the tongue quite as well.
What's something that rhymes with Louis Riddick? Because he'll probably be the guy.
You really think it's going to be Louis Riddick?
I'm mentally prepared. Yes. When I saw him and John Mayer talking on the sideline, I was like, oh, here we go. You know, it's coming. So yeah.
Let me get your opinion on Louis Riddick. What would be your initial mindset if you're prepared for it, but in terms of if they chose him, what do you think of that selection by the Giants if they go that route?
All right, first off, I wouldn't be happy, but I'll give him a chance. That's first and foremost.
As you should.
Yeah, right. I listened to his podcast with Jordan Run on, actually. They did it like a month ago, but I went back and listened to it just to be like, all right, let me mentally prepare for Louis Riddick and just see what he is as a guy. And I don't think he's that bad, but like, I agree with some of his philosophies and core values and all that, but just knowing that, you know, he said on TV he would have drafted Barkley, he would have drafted Haskins and Isaiah Simmons.
He would have extended Landon Collins.
Yeah, that's not horrible, but like the other ones I just mentioned are bad. Like I just feel like in an alternate universe, if Louis Riddick got the Giants GM job in 2017, this team would not be in a much better situation. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel based on what he said on TV. So like anybody, even Gettleman, I gave him a clean slate until he annoyed me, but I will give him a clean slate. It wouldn't be my first choice, but like that's, you know, I'll have to live with it and hopefully the guy does well. That's pretty much all I could say.
Yeah, same thing for me. It's not like wouldn't be my first choice at all. But you know, I just hope that they make the right decision. That's all I could say. Obviously, especially if Mara brings him in for another interview, he's obviously a guy that Mara's interested in. He brought him in for an interview the first time around and seems like a smart guy on television, but I don't agree with everything that the guy has to say. And I will be as fair as I can, just like I was with Gettleman. I don't care who they hire. I'm going to give this guy 3 years to screw up. And and if he does not build the team, obviously there'll be times where I'm going to be questioning some of the moves he makes, but I'm going to let this guy, I'm going to do what I feel as a fan is a fair evaluation process. And I can't do that in 1 year. Can't do that in 2 years. Yeah. I got to give the guy 3 years, in my opinion, to really put his plan in place to see how he can build a football team. And that's what I tried to do with Gettleman. It didn't work. I supported the guy. I'm a fan of the team. I hope that it worked out. I'll do the same thing with Riddick if they hire him. But I'm in agreement with you. It wouldn't be my first choice.
You should give GMs 3 years, but I will say in 2018, Gettleman's first offseason, I kind of
knew this
guy was bad news. There's just the stuff he was saying, like, I'm not going to answer the phone when people call about the second overall pick. I'm like, how are you a GM and you don't answer the freaking phone? Like, it drove me. So
it was a disaster.
Yeah, the stuff he said it pissed me off. I was like, nah.
The way I rationalized it, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, was I legitimately felt like Mara really, really made him feel like he had to try to win with Eli.
Yeah.
And he felt that Barkley was the guy that was going to give Eli the best chance to win the following year. And he figured, all right, I signed Solder. That's going to work on the left side. I'm going to draft. And we all know it didn't work in hindsight. But that's what I tried to rationalize as a fan. But obviously, in hindsight, it was a horrible decision. If it was me, I would have never drafted Barkley. I would have traded down. They didn't do it. It is what it is. I supported Barkley. I like Barkley a lot. I think he's a great teammate. He's a great guy. He's an easy guy to root for. It hasn't worked out. And it was a bad pick. It was a horrible pick. But we can't go back in time. We got to push forward and hope that the next GM does a good job. DB says Barkley is getting close to comfortable. Don't worry. Hey man, I hope so, man. Nobody's rooting for Barkley more than me. I hope he has a great game, and whether it's with the Giants or whoever he ends up with, I hope he has a great career. But I hope he does. He's like Mike said, he's going up against a bad run defense this week, and hopefully he breaks out this week.
If you don't get it done this week, I'm just trade him for a 7th round pick. I'm done. You better get it done this week against this team. Oh my God.
It is what it is. I've already accepted the fact he ain't going to be here long term. I don't think he'll be here long term.
Yeah.
He's not the same player, and maybe it will take another year for him to be, fully recovered. I remember a lot of people said that after he had the ACL, MCL tear. But he's not the same player. And the offensive line is not doing him any favors. I'll say that. We talk about that with Daniel Jones. You say the same thing with Saquon Barkley. They're not doing him any favors. But he's not the same player he was. There's no denying that right now.
Right.
T, thank you so much. We're getting 4 and 6 in the draft. The Jets, Seattle will win more, and I will never come at you with a pitchfork, Dana boy. I appreciate that, T. Hey, I'm as long as people always show me respect, I show respect back. That's all. I know you're going to disagree when you're talking about sports. I just, that's it. I just, just show some respect. But, and I'm sure you feel the same way, Mike.
Yeah, I don't like the a-holes, just be nice.
Yeah, exactly. But I hope that's the case. And a big game this year, Mike, that's talking about from draft position. When you look at it, the Bears play the Seahawks. And Giants and Jets fans are going to be so invested in that. Because the Jets have the Seahawks pick and the Giants have the Bears pick. That's going to be a huge game. Obviously, we're huge Seahawks fans in that game.
I like our chances. I will say that. I like it, especially if Russ plays. I like our chances.
The Bears stink, man.
Yeah,
the Bears are bad.
Worse than us.
Yeah, that's tough. That's the one game for everybody that's rooting for the Giants to lose the rest of their games. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know what to do that game because at that point I'm gonna be like, I know that probably losing is better for this team at that point, and I don't know what to root for.
If you're a person that's rooting exclusively for draft position at that point, and you're not a person that's going to root for the Giants to win each and every week, and again, I don't tell people how to root for the team. I think you're rooting for a tie.
Yeah,
I think a tie would be the best scenario, right? Because it doesn't really affect either draft pick.
0-0 tie. Let's do it.
Yeah. Maybe the Giants and Bears tie.
Yep.
Ryan, man, thank you very much, man. Getting rid of Odell is the reason I completely disagree with that.
Yeah, and I love Odell.
Without Odell, and Mike is the biggest. Well, I don't know if you're the biggest, but you're a big Odell fan.
I'm up there.
We would have been horrible with or without him.
Yep. I think the problem was I think the return for Odell wasn't terrible. It's just the fact that they took a run stopper at 17 overall to try and replace him. Let's say they hypothetically drafted DK Metcalf, would have been fine. You know what I mean? But the fact that they tried to replace, get the biggest asset from the Odell trade went to a 2-down run stopper in Dexter Lawrence, who has been a pretty good player, but just not nearly as impactful as we thought. But as I said, if they took an AJ Brown, a DK Metcalf, we would have looked at that trade of oh, that was a terrific move by the Giants. So.
Yeah, the way I evaluate the trade when people ask me about it now, neither in hindsight, neither team really won it. If you could ask the Browns, they definitely would have made the trade.
Yeah.
But in terms of value, I think the Giants won. They didn't hit on the value, right? Because when you
Yeah.
make a trade, all you can evaluate is what they got for him at the time. And if I would have told you going back in time based off the way that Beckham has played with the Browns since, and I think let's put it this way, Mike. If you would tell the Browns right now, would you have rather kept Jabril Peppers, kept your first-round pick, and kept the third-round pick, or traded for Beckham?
Yeah.
They take the picks and Peppers in a second. So I think we got the proper value. I think we won the trade in terms of value, but we didn't necessarily hit on the picks.
Yeah, it was Lawrence. O'Shane Zimenez has done nothing. And then Jabril Peppers is like, what, a slightly less version of Landon Collins. So it's like, I don't know. We could have done better, but.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it is what it is. What's going on, Ms. Ryan, man? What's going on there, Taj? What's going on there, Hurts for real? What's going on there, Flip? And Big Daddy, what's going on, man? Been saying it for years. It's Mara, Ronnie Barnes, and Chris Mara. It's Giants nepotism. It's killed them in the 70s and now as well.
Who's Ronnie Barnes? Is that like the injured?
He's the medical. He's the head of the medical department. Yeah. He's like a world-renowned doctor. Like I remember, I did a video on him because tying it into COVID when COVID was like a big thing, and he was talking about some of the things that they were gonna have to do in the season. He's like a world-renowned doctor. I don't know much about him, but he's like supposed to be a great doctor. But to me, I say it all the time, Big Daddy. It all goes back to Mara. That's by far the biggest problem with this team. Unfortunately, you can't change it, but the medical staff should certainly be questioned at this point. I think that's fair to say. He's the trainer. Yep. But yeah, we're gonna close this out in like 10 minutes, guys. Again, if you guys have not done so, please check out MiketooNice. We're gonna be over there next week, and I'm gonna talk to Mike after this. We're gonna be I don't know when we're gonna start it, but hopefully soon we're gonna be starting some kind of podcast where we're talking broad sports. So we'll definitely give more information for that as well. If you guys are interested in that, he'll talk about his Yankees. I'll talk about my Mets. We'll talk about our Giants, maybe sprinkle in some Jets talk. Who knows? But it's going to be fun. Been wanting to do a more New York sports type podcast for a while. So we'll definitely be doing that. What's going on there? And you says Ronnie Barnes is not a doctor. Okay. Whatever he is. I don't know what he is. Medical staff. I don't know. I'm sorry if I didn't get the terminology right. When's the mock draft? I mean, for me, I'm not going to do any mock drafts until I know the picks that the Giants have.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do any mock drafts until the end of the year. And then when I find out where the Giants are picking, that's when I'll start doing some mock drafts. Then I'll do a first-round mock draft. I'll do a ton of 7-round mock drafts for the Giants. But I still think it's a little bit premature. We don't even know where we're going to be picking.
Right.
And Miles, he says, finally deciding to start an NFL Giants content. That's awesome, Miles, man. Listen, man, you ever want to come on, let me know, man. I always try to help out new Giants content creators. I enjoy all you guys and would love to be a part of the community who's as passionate about their team as you guys. Any tips or advice? All right, I'll start, and then actually, Mike, do you want to start? Go ahead. Give him some tips.
Oh, man.
How about stay off Twitter?
I guess, yeah. Don't go on Twitter. Never get involved. No. I guess be consistent. That's one thing. I always try to put out the preview videos on a Friday, of course, the reactions right after the games, and then sometimes I do like another video within the week. What else? Be consistent. I guess be honest. I think being honest is pretty important. I don't like to BS people. So if however you really feel in your heart, say it. Like don't try to just be a person that like don't try to get everyone to like you. If you have an opinion that's a bit out there. Like when I went against the Saquon pick at first, it was not a popular opinion, but that's how I've truly felt. So like, sometimes you say stuff, you get it wrong. Sometimes you get it right. It is what it is. I think you should really just say how you truly feel. And I think people will respect you for it. But outside of that, I don't know what else to say, really. You're probably better at this than me, Chris. So take it away.
I don't know if I'm better than you. I think you do a great job on your channel.
Thank you.
Listen, man, I'm probably not the best guy in terms of going with a plan because I say it all the time. I didn't have a plan when I started YouTube. I just did it for fun. Yeah. I didn't ever envision myself, it becoming what it became. But the first thing, I think the most important thing, regardless of what your channel is, you have to love what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And, obviously we love talking sports. We love talking about the Giants. We love talking to you guys about it. So that's the most important thing. I think people could tell right away, regardless of what the channel is. I watch a lot of things outside of sports on YouTube. I watch poker channels. I'm a huge poker fan. I enjoy watching Rampage Poker, for example. I think he's a guy that loves playing poker and he's fun to watch talk about what he loves to do. So I think that's the most important thing is I think you have to love what you're talking about. And I think it's obvious, how it comes across on your channel. Like Mike said, I think you have to be consistent. I think people, if they feel like you're a bullshitter, they're going to say it. regardless, like Mike said, I'm more of a glass half full guy. That doesn't mean I'm a bullshitter. It means I genuinely feel what I'm saying. I wanted to get him a fair opportunity, and I tried to. But you have to be consistent, and I think you have to. And like he said, frequently uploading on a somewhat consistent basis. I think that's important as well. But most important thing is quality. You want to make sure that you're not just saying things because I say this all the time. Don't say things just because people want to hear it. And I fell victim to it when I first started. I was not the biggest fan of Dwayne Haskins. I liked him more than Jones, but I didn't want to take a quarterback. And the fan base influenced me on it. And I learned that as you go along on YouTube. Don't just fall in love with things because the fan base is falling in love with it. I was not on board with firing Pat Shurmur, and I said that. I knew 95% of Giants fans were going to want to rip my head off, but it's what I genuinely felt at the time. So you say what you genuinely feel, and I think that's all people could ask for. So that's my tips.
I got a couple more, actually. Always own up to your mistakes. I always try to do that because I get stuff wrong. Own up to your mistakes. Don't be that guy who's like just never talks about it. And don't play like both sides. Try to have an opinion. I think people come to content creators for opinions. I hate playing the fence or being on the fence. Sometimes I have to do that because I truly don't know, but try to have an opinion. And also like just quality of like the microphone. I think that stuff's important. We don't talk about that much, but when I first started out, like my first couple commentaries were like on the laptop microphone and sounded awful. So try to invest. I don't know how much it would cost, but try to invest in like a decent microphone. And I think if it sounds good, and I think more people will just be compelled to stay on and watch the video longer and give you a chance. So that's all I got.
There you go. That's a good tip. Something I don't normally think of. I used to have the snowball mic. That wasn't very good.
We all started with that. Everyone had the snowball at some point.
Now I got this one. Yeah. This one's pretty good. I don't know. I got this one.
Yours always sounds good. Yeah.
The Yeti or whatever it is. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Zeke, man, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. He says, this franchise is broken from the 4 key parts of the organization. Owner, GM, head coach, quarterback are all committing franchise malpractice. Until we fix that on the field stuff, we'll probably be, of course. And the owner's not going to, the owner has to fix himself. They're not going to just replace the owner, but the GM's going to be replaced. The head coach may or may not be replaced, but the quarterback as well. Either Jones needs to get a lot better, or we need to replace him inevitably. And quarterback is the most important position, but you also need to be able to support that quarterback. And the Giants are going to have to get working on that this offseason. Hopefully the new GM that comes in does just that.
Yeah, I obviously can't switch the owner. That sucks, but I do think we could do better at GM and head coach and quarterback. I don't know what the head coach and quarterback situation will, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Obviously GM's going to change and they have to get that right. But the 4 main parts of this organization are just kind of messed up right now and we could do better. So it's a shame John Mara can't sell the team to somebody, but I'll take Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen seems like he'll throw money at anybody.
But the thing with football is there's a salary.
Yeah, that's the bad part.
Well, it's not like with the Mets where he just throws his money around.
He can't be worse than Mara. Let's put it that way.
Russell Wilson, what's going on? Maybe you'll be a Giant soon. If someone in New York needs their team saved, fine, I'll do it myself. I think you're out of your mind, but if you want to come in here and we don't got to give up a lot, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I'll take you, but it's going to be a tall task, definitely.
Flex Lopez, thank you very much, man. First draft, Neil and Hutchinson. If we get those 2 players in the first round, that'd be a dream come true. I don't see it happening. I think we'd need like 2 top 4 picks for that to happen. I don't think we'll be able to get both those players, but I hope we do. Second edge, third tight. We definitely need a tight end. I don't know when I'm going to want to take that tight end. I haven't really looked at the tight end yet, but we're definitely going to need a tight end, I think, at some point in this draft. 4th linebacker, 5th running back. It's not bad.
Yeah. Fine with that. I wanted to ask you, actually, this is a good question. What's the Giants' final record going to be? Do they reach 5, 6 wins, stay at 4?
6 is max.
Yeah.
With the current quarterback situation, 6 is max. You could talk yourself into that. Maybe they can win 3 games, but they're not winning all 3. And that being the Washington Bears and the Eagles game. 6 is max for me. I'm leaning 4 or 5. I don't know if with the quarterback situation as currently is, and we all know the offense isn't great to begin with, and the injuries that they have, I don't think they're beating the Chargers. I don't think they're beating Dallas. And then that leaves those last 3 games that I just mentioned. I think they'll probably win 1 and maybe could win 2. So I'll say 5 or 6.
I think 5. That's I don't know what pick does that give us. I don't know, but 5 is probably going to be a high pick.
Definitely
5.
Top 7, I would think at worst. But we'll see. We'll see what pick we end up with. Obviously, we're going to hurt one of our picks when we play the Bears. MNY, you know what? If we're going to win one of those 3 games, if you're thinking just about the draft pick, You want it to be the Bears.
Yeah.
It helps your other team. And then, yeah. And what's going on, MNY, man? Glad to see you, man. Chris, through all of this, we're still better than Cowgirl fans. Well, that's for damn sure. Yeah. Giants fans are the most loyal fan. I don't know if they're the most loyal. There's been teams that have been through worse. The Lions are loyal as hell. But Giants fans are certainly passionate. Giants fans are certainly loyal with what they've been through. We say it all the time, man. For you guys to still support my content, watch my stuff based off all the hell that this team has been through, just goes to show you how much you care about your football team. They haven't produced a whole hell of a lot. There's times where I don't feel like talking about them. I love talking Giants, but yeah, I can't say thank you enough to all you guys, man, for supporting, not just my channel, Mike's channel, the whole Giants community, because you love your football team, man.
Yeah.
And Dory Jackson, he says, I want Hogs all the way. What's going on to Dory Jackson, man? Just want to say hello to everybody in the chat, man. What's going on there, Crypto? Just whenever you meet a Cowboys fan, ask them if they've ever been to Dallas, then ask them if they've been to Texas. All right. Sting says, give me Russell Wilson for a first-round pick next year, 2nd and 5th this year. Daniel Jones and a player like Blake Martinez. I don't see them wanting Martinez coming off the injury, but I get what you're getting at. An expendable player that makes a lot of money. But, guys, we are going to wrap this up. I just want to say thank you to everybody. I don't know what time the Knicks are playing tonight, but I'm going to call it. Let me take a quick look real quick. I got to eat dinner. Knicks play tonight at 7:30, so I'll be live at like 7:20 for that. Hopefully find a way to beat the Raptors tonight. We've been horrible as of late. But thank you to everybody for all the support you guys show. Let's hope we go out there and play a good game against the Chargers. We know that Justin Herbert, Rashawn Slater is going to be a huge challenge. Always have fun talking Giants with you guys, though. We're going to have a lot to talk about in the offseason. Hopefully this year, Mike and myself, it's going to be a very active offseason. So I'm going to try to want to continue this weekly with Mike. There's going to be a lot of rumors and everything else throughout the offseason. We'll talk about prospects, so on and so forth. Let me just read this. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Russell Wilson, he says, as long as I have better protection than a broken condom, I'm sold. Sit to go for any price. All right, Russell, man. But Mike, close it out, buddy.
All right. Actually, let me ask you one more question, because this is a funny one that I was thinking in my preview video. How many pressures does Joey Bosa have on Nate Solder?
Oh, God.
Over under 6.
Oh, God. Geez. I'll go under 6. He's going to get 5.
Fair enough.
I'll go under 6. He's going to get 5.
All right. Let me close it out.
Give me your prediction on give me your final score. Should have said that.
Oh, boy. 27-13 Chargers. Yep.
I don't think that's bad. I think that's about where I'd have it as well. Somewhere. Yeah. I don't even know if we'll get 13. I hope I'm wrong, but
we'll probably kick field goals down 4 possessions, so I'm sure we'll get the 13.
I'll go 24-10. Okay. I'll go 14 points as well. So we'll see. I hope we're wrong. I hope the Giants flip the score, but it's going to be tough, man. But yeah, Mike, close it out, buddy.
Yeah, I feel bad for our defense. All right. Appreciate everyone joining us here. Still apologies for being a bit late today. Trying to finish up the preview. But yeah, hopefully we come back next week with some good news. I don't know if that's going to happen. It feels like everything's getting worse and worse, and the snowball, keeps going in the wrong direction here for us. But, hopefully we do get some positive news. And I guess we're on my channel next week, right? So we'll talk to you guys next week, and I appreciate those who join. Yeah, definitely go check out Mike's channel. We'll be over there next week. We'll be talking about how the Giants upset the Chargers and how they're going to make the playoffs. Right. But, guys, have a great rest of your day. And let's go Giants. Let's get a win on Sunday.